Oh, no, he's gone.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Batman show. We just lost Sir Ian. Eric's in the house. Birdman's in the house. I see David Penzak is in the chat. How are you, sir? We've been gone a couple weeks. Life has been going on, but that happens. Sometimes. But that's all good. We're here today.
That's a good first question, by the way.
Yeah, that's a very good first question.
You and I are both, I think, very passionate about end credit music. So
yeah. That maybe it's the only question today. I think Ian's popping back. Yes, at the stream. All right, there he is. There you are.
Don't know what happened there. Sorry.
It's all good. It's crazy internet.
Yeah.
So what have y'all been up to in the time that we've been off?
Oh wow, I'm just trying to get better. That's all. It's been a very unhappy past. What's been 3 weeks, and all my energy's back. My throat feels good. I had strep throat. Ew. And I'm pretty sure, even though all the tests that I took were negative, I had 4 of them, but I'm pretty sure I got COVID, and I'm still suffering from some sort of long-term effect from it, because I'm having a real difficult time with like prolonged exercise. So like walking or
I have that same problem,
right? Doing long, like yard work or just going up and down the stairs. But I'm having like this tickle in my throat and I can't breathe properly. So, and it's just exhausting, all the coughing. So, but I mean, besides everything that I was battling with like 3 weeks ago, this is all that's left. And the fact that I'm able to have a conversation, even to say like 2 or 3 sentences without coughing right now is a step forward. So I'm happy to be back. So I feel quite responsible for our absence here. So
it's all good. Do you think maybe you had viral pneumonia?
And I've had walking pneumonia before, so I know what that feels like. It's a very different feeling. And the thing is, the doctor said that my oxygen level was 100% perfect and my lungs were clean or clear. And usually you get that wheezing or that crackling in your chest with the walking pneumonia, and I had none of that. It's just this weird tickle or not able to get enough oxygen in my lungs. And so like, even if I breathe in and hold it, which I had to do on my x-ray Thursday, I was just, once I let out my breath, I was coughing up my lungs. And even the operator, she's like, oh my God, something is seriously wrong with you. Because holding my breath was so painful and so uncomfortable. So yeah, I hope I'll find out what's going on or has been going on, but today's actually one of my better days.
Well,
and yeah. So I'm looking to get back, into doing this and get back into doing the podcast again, because I've been neglecting that, and I'm just kind of excited to get back into that. And I'm on vacation next month, so there's a lot going on this summer. Yeah, we're heading out to Newfoundland for a scheduled 5 weeks. If we stay longer than 2, I'll be surprised. But yeah, we're driving out to Eastern Canada June 30th. And we're supposed to come back, at the end of July. So, yeah.
Do you ever get to Nova Scotia?
Yeah, we're going to be driving through Nova Scotia. We actually board the boat in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So we're taking the boat across, which is the overnight boat, to get to Newfoundland. And I've been there once, but we're going to we got a day scheduled there, because I think the day that we're boarding the boat is my son's 16th birthday. So we're going to spend the day out in Sydney doing stuff for him. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. So yeah, we'll stop in Montreal, and then we'll drive the 10 hours across Quebec, head into New Brunswick, stop in New Brunswick, and then we'll make our way to Nova Scotia. And then the next boat trip across to Newfoundland, and we'll be at our destination.
Sounds fun. Back in the day, I had applied to St. Francis Xavier in Nova Scotia.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't go.
Yeah, St. FX is pretty popular, especially with sports. They always had a good football team, I think.
Really? Canada? Are you sure about that?
Yeah. We have what's called the Vanier Cup. So all of our Canadian college, university football teams compete. So it's huge. It's huge here. We have two universities in town, the Waterloo Warriors and the Laurier Golden Hawks. They both have their own football stadiums, and they play within their own, I think, provincial division, and then they go into a playoffs, and then they'll play a national championship. And yeah, I mean, it's not as big as it is down south, but I do know a couple of Canadian teams, I think, have played in bowl games in the South. And there's even some Canadian players that become like all-stars. Like you have all-star games for the NCAA, and they'll come down for all-star games as well. So yeah, and we have our own. I mean, do you know about the Canadian Football League?
I know
SEC. Well, we have the CFL, so it's our own professional football league. We have 9 teams, and it's 125 years old, maybe even older than that.
Okay.
Yeah, we have. There's my favorite team is the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and there's 9 teams all across the country, and it's pretty popular. So, and it's a totally different game, but we can get into we can do a whole other discussion on sports later.
Well,
but it's a really good game. It's a very different game too.
To be honest, just because I'm in the South doesn't really mean I know anything about football, except that football is more important than religion down here. And
that's correct. So that's right.
That's about all I know.
Yes. Whereas hockey is more important than religion here.
Yeah.
Much like
Can you hear me?
Football / soccer for Ian is more important than religion.
Soccer.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Soccer. Football.
Soccer. Yeah, football. But if we say football here, it's like, oh, it's the American version.
Anyway, sorry about that. I have no idea what was happening there. I've changed over to my iPad now, so hopefully that will work.
The internet can be crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
So
want to talk about Batman?
We can, but first we got a question up on the deck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
But David said, using Birdman logic, if you listen to only John Williams music, you might have recovered 40% faster.
That's actually very funny.
It's probably true as well. Although I'm not a doctor, so don't take my medical advice. David's asking about end credits. Are they just mashed together in a blender after the fact, or are they actually written? I know John Williams likes to write an actual suite of end credits. God bless them. Maybe that's why they're so good. Other people, sometimes I feel like they're just kind of put in a blender and mixed up.
That's correct. Yeah, it's there are, I mean, I would say a majority of, like, once the end credit became longer than just like a quick title card, much like you see in Jaws, where that's a very short cue and it's just like the cast, right? That's what it used to be, just the cast at the end, because you had most of your main credits at the beginning of a movie. But then Star Wars, I think, introduced that whole longer, 3 to 4 minute title crawl.
And George Lucas got in trouble for that.
Yes, he did. That's correct. Yeah, because none of the credits were at the beginning of the movie.
And he resigned from the Directors Guild of America over that.
That's right. And so John Williams, at that point, I think, wrote what is now the first ever modern end credit cue in Star Wars. And that was a way, and I think he even said it in the LP, for him to wrap up the major themes in the score. So he got the Luke theme, Star Wars theme, he got the Rebel fanfare and Princess Leia's theme within that end credit. And of course he did the exact same thing in Empire Strikes Back. Wrote an equally great end credit cue for Temple of Doom. And so that was kind of like 1977. You're looking at kind of where the traditional end credit cue that we all know and love right now began. Like beforehand, back in the golden age, I mean, your end credit cue is your main title cue, because you had these huge long credit sequences. So those worked almost similarly. You play the major theme of the picture, maybe themes, and that's where you would hear them. So there are some patchwork pieces. One composer that does it really well with his music editors is Alan Silvestri. You won't find him writing a lot of end credit cues, but a lot of the stuff that he does in his end credits is a patchwork of existing cues here and there, and all sounds beautifully put together, so you wouldn't really know. Other times you might just get stuff kind of thrown together and it sounds rather sloppy. one composer nowadays that does it and makes sure that he does it because he loved it so much is Michael Giacchino. One of his goals is to keep the end credit cue alive. And so I'm thinking every single one of his film scores, he has written an end credit cue, a traditional one. And he's probably one of the last that's doing that sort of stuff. There are still other composers that will, but I mean, it's kind of going the way of the dodo. And you're finding that, again, composers don't have much time to now write. I mean, okay, well, here's the thing. Marvel is now, again, they're doing their main credit. What do they call it? The
main on end.
Yeah. So you have a 2-minute, 3-minute credit sequence now where a composer is writing an original piece to that, but then the rest of the credits is just already existing cues. So you're not getting a full end credit cue, but at least you're getting something new, which is most likely the full version of that main theme that you've heard throughout the film score that you've just heard. Now that's where it's being presented. So instead of what used to traditionally be the credits at the beginning are now at the end, and at least we're getting something. But again, composers don't have a lot of time to craft something like that. And James Horner, again, was also another composer, and I did an entire show on the end credits. And I figured that the reason why he would do that and would constantly write these massive cues was that the end credits gave him a chance to do something that eluded him back in 79, when Spectral Shimmers crashed and burned, and he wasn't able to write classical music anymore. So he transitioned to film music, but the end credits still allowed him to write something that was pure music, that was meant to be just heard as music without any interference of the visuals. And so the end credits essentially became a place where in every single score that he wrote, he was able to write that concert work or classical work that he wasn't able to do anymore, or at least be paid for. So it was a kind of a happy accident. He got into film music. It was very successful, but he still was able to do what he wanted to do, which is concert classical music. And he was able to do that for the end credit cue.
And it's a great way for composers as well, whether if they've got some kind of theme that they've used throughout the film to flesh that out into a more fully rounded piece of music, which I know John Williams has done in most of his end title cues.
Yeah. But you'll notice like Jerry Goldsmith rarely did it. And a lot of his stuff was, sorry about the cough.
Okay.
Was patchwork. Or he'd write a piece that would help blend into that end credits, and then it would just be, or he'd write one and they wouldn't use it. For instance, The Mummy. The Mummy has an end credit cue. It's beautiful, but you don't hear that during the end credits of that film. And much like The Mummy Returns, Silvestri wrote The Mummy Returns end credit just for the main credits, and then the rest of it's just a patchwork of existing cues, and that cue is incredible. It's one of my most played tracks of all time. And
Jerry Goldsmith also wrote end title for Rambo First Blood Part 2, which we eventually got in a very kind of crappy version.
Yeah.
But it was great to hear it. But and also the kind of the long end title suite for Rambo 3 as well, which neither of them were ever used. So which is a shame.
Yeah, and usually you have a song that's over top of it, or so. Yeah, I mean, end credits are, I mean, some of the best music you've ever heard is in the end credits. I mean, I'm thinking of Independence Day. That 9-minute behemoth is incredible, or the end credits from Cutthroat Island, which is just absolutely stunning. It's just like I said, it's pure music. It's probably the only piece written for the film score that's just supposed to be listened to on its own. And I love that. That's what I loved about it. And I wish they'd perform more end credit music in concerts, instead of just like a melody or whatever. But I mean, an end credit cue would be a perfect little concerto of ideas from the scores. So I mean, sometimes they do.
Yeah, it is a perfect suite of music from the film as well, if you pick the right one.
Very true.
I love Jerry Goldsmith's end title track from Extreme Prejudice.
Yes.
No Deal. I thought it was
Yeah.
a wonderful track. And again, trumpet work from Jerry Goldsmith is always good. So
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean the history of the end credits is actually really, really interesting because you'll find on Golden Age stuff it's 30 seconds long because that's all it is. It's literally the end credit cue where it says the end, and that's it. And you might play the cast, maybe, but yeah, there's an interesting evolution of the end credit cue throughout Hollywood and throughout film history. So I should do more end credit shows on my podcast. I did one a long time ago, and it was like from like 17th anniversary, and it's a lot of fun to do, just picking out my favorites and talking about them. But I mean, again, talking about patchwork, and the one who did it the best was Silvestri. I mean, Predator 2
Oh, yes.
is a patchwork piece, or Mischief Managed is a patchwork. Only the first bit of it is original, and Williams actually wrote an original end credit cue, which is on that Harry Potter box set. But Mischief Managed is a accumulation of, I think, a lot of the concert works or the highlighted cues. And it's just all slammed together for 12 minutes. It still sounds great, but that's not how it was composed. It was done in post. So, but yeah, Predator 2, again, you'd think that that's just completely brand new, but he has an amazing music editor who puts together his end credits. Like, I mean, but having said that, you have the brilliant end credits from Back to the Future 3. I mean, what a suite that is. That's become a highlight for Alan Silvestri in concert. Anytime he performs Back to the Future, he adds the end credits from Back to the Future 3 into the suite. So again, I'm not saying that he doesn't do it, but some of the times it's kind of like smashed together. Or he has another great one. Death Becomes Her is a great end credit piece. Really, really lovely. So yeah, I just wish composers had more time to kind of play around and write those type of cues, or even write concert pieces of major themes like Horner used to do, and John Williams still does to this day. So, and it works great for albums.
And credits aren't getting any shorter.
No, and they're not. And that's the thing, right? How much time you're going to dedicate to writing a 10-minute piece where most people have walked out of the theater anyway, and you're probably only going to use it for the album. I mean, I'm sitting there always most of the time in the theater by myself, just listening to this stuff. House lights come on, people are waiting to clear the aisles, and I'm just like, no, we're not done yet. The movie is not over. So
it frustrates me sometimes. Yeah. It frustrates me sometimes when you've got a wonderfully orchestral score to a film, and then it gets to the end credits, and it's some kind of rock song that they've kind of plastered on the end there, or maybe you get a couple of songs at the end if the credits are extra long, and then right at the very end, just as the final credits are rolling, you'll get maybe like 20-30 seconds of score that they've just tagged on at the end to kind of just waft you out of the theater. I don't like that.
Yeah, neither do I. And thank God, like Lady Gaga's song for Top Gun, the new Top Gun movie, is actually really short, and I stuck around for the end credits of that one, and they played the highlight cue from the score, which was if anybody's seen the movie, it's the scene where it's at the beginning, Maverick's flying the test plane, the stealth fighter or whatever it is, and it's a great opening cue, and so they play that in full, and then they play, I think, a new arrangement of Faltermeyer's Top Gun theme at the end. So it was nice. It was nice to hear that. And think about Zimmer is that he's super interested in the mix. So he loves his surround mixes. And so it sounded really awesome just to kind of sit there and hear that music surround you. And there's certain effects out in the left back and then the right back speakers. And then, they come over top of you and surround you. So, you might not like the music, but the production values are pretty incredible for a Zimmer score, especially. So if you get a chance, sit back and listen to Zimmer's end credit music. It's quite an experience in the theater.
Retro Reels has joined us. Good afternoon or evening for you, sir. I hope you're doing well.
Hi, Neil.
Has anyone ordered the Japanese version of Top Gun Maverick?
No, it's like one extra cue and a whole bunch of other stuff, right?
That's what I hear.
Yeah, no.
I haven't seen the film yet, but there's been loads of posts on Facebook about this. People going wild over this one extra track.
I wouldn't know what it is. Which one? I mean, I didn't find it all to be that great, except for that one cue, which was really good. It kind of reminded me of.
I mean, you need to get the Japanese pressing, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I prefer what Faltermeyer did in the original. That just had way more energy and didn't feel like a wall of Zimmer sound, which is what we were getting. And some of the arrangements of the Top Gun anthem just didn't feel right in that kind of epic Zimmer way. It was so odd. So, but like I said, the opening cue was pretty cool. Like I said, it felt like more like the Wonder Woman 84 arrangement of his music than some of his other stuff. But yeah, I don't see the value of it going for kind of epic, but I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, I'll listen to that one cue and that's about it. I put it on my favorites playlist and I'll never listen to the album again. And I thought that Kenny Loggins was coming back and he was going to re-record Danger Zone, but it was the same song. So I thought he was going to do something different with that. But still, I mean, seeing the opening, I mean, with all the modern cinematography, but with the exact same, Top Gun anthem playing and then cut into Danger Zone was pretty thrilling. And the film's amazing. So if you haven't seen it, go.
What are you waiting for, Ian?
Go. It's awesome.
I will say, I must admit, I've only just come round for decades. It's weird saying that. This film's been around for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that much of a fan, to tell you the truth. But it's only in the past kind of 5 years or so that I've come round, and I actually got it on 4K a couple of weeks ago. So I love it now. So I will catch up with the new one soon. So
it's really impressive. It is, like, from the standpoint of, like, they wanted to do as much real as possible. That really helps. It does. I mean, for anybody that is like sick and tired of all the CGI and the weird physics of action sequences, and you just know it's like something's wrong. Nothing feels out of place in this. And I'm not saying there's not CGI in this. It's tons. There's tons of rotoscoping. There's tons of animation. It was all farmed out to some Indian production company, which I thought was interesting. Reading the end credits, it was all done in India, and it was flawless. It was seamless. But to see the actual cameras inside the cockpit, I think there's like 4 of them all rolling at once, and to see the actual actors in that cockpit and they're reacting to the G's and the turns. They did a great job with the rear screen projection in Top Gun. So when they were in the cockpit, they were faking it, but it looked really good. But this was just like, man, you can tell, like, when they're doing these hard turns or like this huge ascent up, you can just see their faces just start like kind of like melting away because like the G's are just like screwing them up, and you can just feel them shaking. And that's where that's what impresses me about special effects or big blockbuster pictures. I want to see a real car crash. So I want to see people really flying airplanes, and that's what really excites me to go see a movie. And so they did it right with this new Top Gun movie. And I'm glad they did it that way, because it would have sucked. It was just CGI. It just wouldn't be impressive at all. And so, yeah. And by the way, they also, it looks like a Tony Scott movie. So that's one thing I think they got right. The way the lensing looks more like a Tony Scott film. So if you're used to what Tony Scott's movies look like, then you'll kind of get an idea that, yeah, they honored his the way he used to shoot movies in this one. So a lot of long lenses, and it looks really good, and it ties in with the original film perfectly. So yeah, they did it right.
Good.
I was not disappointed with the film. When I first heard they were doing it, I was like, really, a sequel to Top Gun?
Yeah.
And then I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah. And of course you had to wait like 2 years because of things.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they didn't just put it out on Netflix or whatever. I'm glad
I mean, I'll gladly watch it again on TV, but if I can go back and watch it again in the theater, I would love to see it in IMAX. I mean, I'm not the type of person where it's like, I've got to go see it again in the theater or whatever, but this, and I've done my fair share of aerial photography, but I mean, nothing like this. But there's a couple of shots where I'm like, man, I wish I had shot it. There's 3 planes that are coming out of a canyon at the end of the film during this big finale. And you can see the what is it, the sound barrier, the little kind of foam that foams around a plane when it's hitting the sound barrier, and these 3 planes are just ripping out of this canyon, and it's this amazing shot. And I was just sitting there like jaw dropped. I'm like, I wish I had shot that. And my wife even looked over to me and she's like, oh, you really liked that shot, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, man, that was something else. That was so awesome. And I love shooting aerials. I love planes. So that was kind of like, yeah, it's exciting. It was really exciting to see like real jets just like kicking ass around a canyon. And it was like, man, how cool would it have been to shoot that? So.
And with that, go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, you know, when Tom Cruise makes these kind of films, the majority of it's going to be done for real. And he's going to be involved in the majority of it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the stuff he did with the last 2 or 3 Mission Impossible films. Just, I mean, if you look at the kind of behind the scenes stuff, him flying that helicopter in the last one, that was all him. It's just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah. He's you know, he's kind of made a new career for himself based on this whole I'm going to do these things for real, and good for him. I mean, like they say, he might be the last true movie star that we ever see, like genuine movie star. Like, forget his politics, forget his everything else about him personally, but if you think of him just as a movie star, I mean, that's kind of like he's like the last one going, I think, where you're genuinely going, I'm going to go watch a Tom Cruise movie. I don't care what the subject matter is, but I know he's going to do something insane, and I've got to go see it because he's a star. And yeah, so
real quick, was that Tom Cruise's own P-51 in the movie?
Could have been,
because there aren't many of them floating around anymore.
Yeah, it could have been. I am not sure, but it's possible. Yeah. It's really
P-51. What's
P-51 Mustang?
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure, like right at the end, I'm pretty sure that's him flying that. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I so hate him that he actually owns one. Oh, I can't I have one?
That's what happens when you're a movie star.
I'm waiting on that YouTube money to start rolling in. I'll buy one for everyone.
Oh, great.
Hey, if you want to move on, I was going to talk about, well, because this is coming up on a show that I'm joining really early Saturday morning. A friend of mine, he's doing a program on re-recordings. And so he asked me to pick a couple of my favorites, but there's many like polar opposite opinions on where people stand on re-recordings. Like some are like, I don't want to hear anything but the original, or more people are open to re-recordings, much like they are open to multiple performances of the same concert work, right? Different interpretations. So, and I was listening to that latest John Williams album, not the one with Sophie Mutter, but the one with Yo-Yo Ma, and the beautiful couple arrangements that he did of his film pieces there, and they were beautiful. So I wondered kind of where you guys stand on re-recordings, and whether it's something that you'd actively look for and care for and would listen to a re-recording over an original soundtrack.
I do. Well, I love re-recordings. As you say, I love the different versions you get. Sometimes a re-recording might improve, or it might improve on the original. Sometimes I'm trying to think of examples, and I can't at the moment. But yeah, I'm open to listening to anything that's re-recorded, just to hear what somebody else's take on it is. Yeah, love them.
How about you, Dana?
If it's done well, I'm fine with it. If the orchestra sucks, not so much. I can be kind of picky. I will say this. I got Conan the Barbarian on organ.
Yes,
Just organ, like the entire score. And I'm like, this is really awesome.
it is.
I know. Is it the City of Prague that's redone Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's like the only way to get. Destroyer was the second one, right?
Yeah, they did a great job with Destroyer. Entrada's supposed to be doing the complete Destroyer, but it hasn't come out yet. So
I'll buy it when they do it.
Yeah.
But I'm very pleased with the City of Prague version that came out. I think it sounds great. It sounds like
it's amazing. The Destroyer's amazing. It's like listening to a brand new score. I'm not too keen on, and I've talked about this numerous times elsewhere. I'm not too keen on their Barbarian recording, and I'm a huge fan of the City of Prague and Tadlow Music's recordings. They're the Tadlow series of recordings. Some of their earlier stuff is pretty shady, but when they started with, I'm gonna say it's True Grit, and from that time on, they've done stuff like El Cid, Lawrence of Arabia.
I have their Lawrence of Arabia.
Those are absolutely magnificent, and they just seem to be getting better and better and better and better with each album. I'm having problems with Conan the Barbarian, mainly in performance. There are some missed notes, sometimes I know that you're not going to get it perfect 100%, but there's keynotes missing from Barbarian, which it just seems so strange to hear it without it. And for some reason, the recording, it's either recording or the mix is very, it's either compressed heavily, which they haven't been doing on a lot of the recordings since, but it just like, once it gets to those loud moments, it's just almost unbearable to the point of it being like a wall of noise. Now, when they did Destroyer, the dynamics seem perfect. Like nothing seems to be going up and above 0 dB. Nothing seems to be clipped or compromised. So I don't know what happened, and I was really looking forward to Barbarian. As much as I do like the original sound of the 82 recording, just because it sounds so raw and gritty, and it feels like it was maybe recorded during that time, you know what I mean? Like the time of Conan. Destroyer sounded so small, and so when I heard it, the Tadlow version for Destroyer, it was amazing. But Conan, the Barbarian, to try to hear it with a modern recording, I was really excited about, and I was kind of disappointed with that presentation. But that's a minor nitpick on an incredible series of recordings that James Fitzpatrick has done. So if anybody out there is on the fence on Tadlow recordings, you shouldn't be. You should really go out there and grab them. Yeah.
And I've got their Ben Hurley recording.
Oh yes.
What are the ones?
Taras Bulb.
I haven't got King of Kings. I need to get that. But I've got Taras
Blue Max.
Who hasn't got Blue Max?
At least 5 copies, right?
But I mean, I'm kind of glad it was re-recorded. I mean, I love the other albums, but it was like, wow, all right, I'm up for this, and it's really good.
It is. It's quite faithful as well.
Yeah.
And the clarity of the sound on it compared to the original is just phenomenal, I think.
Yeah, their improvements on their sound and performance, it's unreal.
I think we've spoken about the second disc a few weeks ago as well that he put out. Because they had extra time and extra money, so there was some great extra little suites on there. So
that's right.
And including I've never heard Inchon re-recorded. I've only ever heard the original, so it was great to hear that.
Yes, it was.
There's a couple of tracks from Inchon.
Yeah. It's and I'm glad, and I think the person that's going to eventually take over from James Fitzpatrick might be Lee Phillips, because he's just he actually reached his Kickstarter goal to do some older Goldsmith recordings, and he's doing that, I think, with the City of Prague Philharmonic. And but yeah, I don't think it's either James Fitzpatrick he's either ill or he's just kind of like out of the game. It's really too bad, because I think he was, I mean, if you look at some of the titles that he released, like Quo Vadis, oh my Lord, somebody pick that up, please. It's awesome. Hour of the Gun. Oh, the Salamander.
Salamander, yeah.
Holy smokes! Like what is this? And it's a brilliant Goldsmith score for one of the worst films ever made.
Do you know what? Until that score came out, that re-recording, I'd never heard of it.
Right, neither have I.
It just came out of the blue. I thought, no, this is made up. This is not true.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. QB7, like it's so awesome. There's another one. Oh, some of the Bernard Herrmann recordings are good. There's Thief of Baghdad by Nicholas Rocha. The Thriller series for Jerry Goldsmith. That stuff is just, it's timeless. Absolutely timeless.
The Sherlock Holmes one as well.
Oh, yes. And that's one
superb.
of the early ones.
Yeah.
Really good. And so I hope people are, I think people should embrace re-recordings. I'm not the type of person where I'm like the original is like the be all and end all. Although I still think, man, there aren't many recordings that outdoes Star Wars. But I mean, I couldn't imagine what a complete new recording of Star Wars would sound like without the LSO and John Williams.
We do have Charles Gerhardt ones.
Yeah, the Gerhardt ones are
not complete. It's just
the Star Wars one that he did is a bit iffy on performance and tempo. However, the Close Encounters suite, which I'm gonna highlight on my friend's show this coming Saturday, is possibly my second favorite re-recording of all time, and it outdoes anything and everything that's ever been performed from Close Encounters. 21 minutes long, and it's mind-blowing. And with the Kenneth Wilkinson recording and the National Philharmonic, it's absolutely stunning. Empire, as much as it's a clearer recording than we get from the original soundtrack, again, there's just, I think it was a rushed recording, and you can really hear it in the brass. They're sour on a lot of their notes, but there's some really interesting arrangements. Like one of the most interesting arrangements of the Imperial March, right? It begins with the Carbon Freeze music.
It does.
And then goes into the Imperial March.
And that was the only way for years to get that little snippet of music.
Right. So, and it's one of the rare recordings of the original Han Solo and the Princess concert suite.
What about that new one that just came out?
Which one was that one?
With Annie Sophie.
Yeah, I'm probably
You're not going to get that, are you?
Really. I heard the Sophie Mutter. So that's, I think, the third arrangement of the Han Solo and the Princess suite, and I think it's probably the worst one.
So
I hate it.
Back to the Salamander. Is the version you get the one with the City of Prague, or
yep,
is it?
That's all there is. There's no original recording. There's nothing.
What about the? It says it's an import. Oh wait, it's just different cover. It's still City of Prague.
Yeah.
There's like that?
Yeah,
one?
That's it.
Okay, well then there's.
But I would say, I mean, if you don't own any, yeah. So there's two different covers.
But it's the same recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't find my. Oh wait, hold it here. No, I can't find my album. Anyway, if do you own any of the Tadlow recordings?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm gonna break your wallet.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, Friday, okay. I got some money in the bank, but I don't need to be going to Costco. Okay.
Here's the thing about El Cid. El Cid was released twice. I was meaning to put my hands up because there's a 3 CD set and there's a 2 CD set. You don't need the 3 CD set. The 2 CD set's just fine. I think that's the one that's the only one still in print. You want Exodus.
Exodus, yes.
Yeah. You want Lawrence of Arabia.
Got Lawrence of Arabia.
You have the re-recording.
Yeah, it's like the complete score. Okay. I mean, it's longer than the standard release that came out.
Okay. Tars Bulba.
Don't have that.
That's great.
I'm not going to recommend Tiomkin because he's really difficult. and I think you'd be wise to spend your money elsewhere. Are you a fan of Maurice Jarre?
Some stuff.
Like, yeah. So, okay. Quo Vadis, which is Roja. Hour of the Gun is amazing.
I've got that.
So there's an Hour of the Gun that was released, I think, by LalaLand, the original recording. And then there's the re-recording. So Salamander for sure. QB7, absolutely. And I think QB7, it's a great score, but then on oh no, was it? Okay, no, I was thinking of something else. I thought this had extra recordings on it, but it didn't. I think no, you're right. It's the Blue Max one. If you like Bernard Herrmann, then you want to get Obsession. What do you think of Sodom and Gomorrah, Ian? That's a...
Yeah.
I don't think it's an essential.
No. Not compared to some of the other ones you just listed.
Yeah. I'd go listen to that one first. They did one... Well, it's a concert album. This is the Epic Hollywood Music of Mikolas Rocha. Again, it's more of a compilation, so you could probably do without that one. Oh, Blue Max, absolutely. So Blue Max is so cool.
I'm a fan of the Vikings.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Vikings is very good too.
So,
but you get on the Blue Max album, on top of the Blue Max, you get the MacArthur Concert Suite. You get 2 tracks from Patton. You then get the Gathering of Eagles. You get the Sand Pebbles Concert Suite, Inchon Concert Suite, Tora Tora Tora, the Chairman, the Mummy Concert Suite. I mean, damn. And then you get 3 monster tracks from The Omen 3 at the end. So that's a jam-packed album. I think Thief of Baghdad's a lot of fun. Again, I don't know if it's essential. Oh, and you were talking about The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
I think that's essential.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you a fan of Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
Okay, they did a really good job with Ben-Hur. And then there's King of Kings. King of Kings is great too.
Retro's bringing up, he likes the originals, but he says he does like the suites from Empire by Charles Gerhardt. But, okay, let's say, Retro, like you can get the original, but it's like 30 minutes, and you're missing an additional 40 minutes of score. Would you rather have someone come out and do a re-recording that's quality, or would you rather just stick to the original 30 minutes that you got?
That's a good question. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, look at the original QB7 score. That was just about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's all we had for years on the LP and then the CD. And then the re-recording was, an hour and a half of music. So,
yeah, same goes for like Mazada. Like that was an epic television miniseries, and all we had was like 30 minutes of music. Well, maybe 45. I forgot it was. Very well done. Very well recorded in London. Awesome. But I mean, I'd still listen to it. I'll listen to the shorter version than I will the longer version, but I'm glad to have the longer version as well. But man, it depends on like which 30 minutes of Empire you're talking about. I mean, I could put together 30 minutes of amazing Empire music that the original recording would just blow anything away these days. But I mean, if you're like putting together a real crack team of professionals to really do it right and perfect and proper, and I mean, you might even bring in click track to make sure that tempo is perfect. Then yeah, maybe I'd be okay with that, but I don't know.
One thing that always lets re-recordings down is tempo sometimes. Look at all the re-recordings of the March from 1941.
Yes,
they're all very stately and very polite. They don't have that kind of pizzazz or drive that the original had. Even when John Williams conducts it himself, it doesn't have that same punch, which is a shame.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I think we talked about it a few months ago. We brought it up was the Superman re-recording. And I mean, there's tempo issues with that one, but I'm a little more forgiving for that for some reason. I think the big thing that I have a problem with is like when you do have action music and it's just super slow and drags, that's where it kills. That's where it'll kill a cue. But I think there's a lot to like on that Royal Scottish National Orchestra album to pick up. Especially, I mean, they do the first half or that first the Krypton sequences really, really well. I think they do it. Oh, it's spectacular how awesome it sounds. But I mean, then you got some of the other Varese recordings, like whoa, I'm trying to think. It's either Marnie or Torque. I think it's Marnie. Marnie sounds like the orchestra was recorded across the street from me in someone's garage, and I had this mic recording that. I can't believe how distant and how nondescript and non-detailed that album is. And it's complete. It's the complete recording. The problem is that from what I gather, they recorded it direct to channel stereo. So there's no multi-tracks. And they did it like within 1 or 2 days and then just packaged it up and away they went. I can't complain. There's a lot of great scores that I have from Varese that I don't have anywhere else because of the re-recordings. And I was introduced to a lot of great scores because of like Patton. First ever listen I've ever had a Patton was on Varese's re-recording.
Well, I must admit, the first time I ever heard Patton, I bought it on LP probably around about 84, 85. I'd never seen the film. It was just one of those. I was getting into my Jerry Goldsmith kind of fandom, and it was just a Jerry Goldsmith LP that I didn't have, and I'd heard about Patton, and I knew it had won Oscars, so I bought it. And it wasn't, and probably another 3-4 years before I actually saw the film. But when that re-recording by the RSNO came round, I was living here in Edinburgh, so I thought, oh, I've got to have that because it's our local orchestra.
Yeah.
So,
and they did a good job. I mean, again, the recording is, I mean, the dynamics are just like, oh my God, it's like this. And when it's quiet, it's really quiet. When it's loud, it's super loud. I mean, there needed to be just a little bit of compression, but I thought it was a great introduction to that score, especially for myself, because I knew it was a classic. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to finally get to listen to Patton. This is incredible. And took it home and enjoyed it. And it became one of my favorite scores. But there's other scores like The Day the Earth Stood Still. I heard it the first time on the Joel McNeely recording where they had a very small ensemble and they did that one right. It was beautifully recorded. And I think the best thing that Varese ever did, and I think they won awards for it, was their Vertigo re-recording. I have never heard that score, although I know that there's a Paris recording that a lot of people will pick over the McNeely recording because I think it was recorded to film, so the tempo is like perfect. But there's something about Joel McNeely's conducting. Now, he conducted it as the way Bernard Herrmann wanted it to be conducted. So every little note that was made on the manuscript or on the score itself, Joel McNeely took that as the word of God. So while some things might be slower or faster, he took it the way that Bernard Herrmann wanted it to sound. But if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Foster recorded it. Now, this is before Jonathan Allen became the original, the regular recordist for the Royal Scottish National Orchestra's Varese albums. But Jeff Foster, he did a lot of those. I think he did the Hollywood 94 and Hollywood 95 recordings, and those are amazing. Yeah. So if you're used to that sound, that's how good Vertigo sounds. And so if you don't own Vertigo, and I'm not a huge fan of getting complete Bernard Herrmann albums because personally, I don't think that they hold up in complete form. I actually prefer Herrmann more in suite form. Vertigo is one start to finish that's a bona fide masterpiece, and it really comes alive on the McNeely recording.
Let me hit 3 questions real fast. I want to go back to City of Prague. I have a question for y'all. Okay. David asked Conan on organ. Yeah, I forget who released the album. Do you remember?
I think it was Naxos.
Okay. I bought mine off eBay, I think like 15, 20 bucks.
Yeah, it's a very plain looking cover, but it's the whole score on organ.
It's awesome.
So amazing.
And Gigawatt, who is Tabat and why is he on strike? Not quite sure what you mean. And
Okay.
David wants to know if all these mentioned are City of Prague recordings.
Yeah, so when I'm talking about Tadlow, that's all City of Prague. So everything I mentioned for Daniel to buy is Tadlow. So you go to like the tadlowmusic.com and you can order them straight from there. And then the McNeely recordings I was talking about was through Varese Sarabande Records. I'm pretty sure if you can't find them on Varese.com, then they're out of print. You probably had to get them on the secondary market.
Check eBay, check Discogs, check Amazon to keep the price. So that's what I do. But Retro says if a re-recorded is the only option, then I get it, unless the original was poor, like Erik mentioned. Try to stay educated and stay away from re-recordings that are done purely for commercial sake.
I don't think they're making any money on these albums, honestly. I think they're taking a huge hit. They're just I think that when you got film music connoisseurs, and when you have people like Robert Townsend and James Fitzpatrick that are doing this sort of stuff, like Lee Phillips did a Kickstarter for God. You know what? I want to make sure I'm right on this, on the facts of what he's recording. So the Kickstarter was to record the bar mitzvah of Major Orlovsky.
That's a Goldsmith Kickstarter?
Yeah. So there's no way he's making money on it. And he's literally just like recording rare Goldsmith pieces that no one's ever heard before. And the only way you're going to listen to it is done through a re-recording. And he's doing it just for the fans. And I think that's pretty much what James Fitzpatrick was doing for all of his re-recordings. And I mean, they're expensive. I mean, they're not as expensive as if he was recording in LA, but you know, to get all those parts, to get the people, the orchestra, all that stuff out. I mean, it's a labor of love. And I would say that most of these soundtrack labels are doing it not for the money. They're doing it, you know, it's a labor of love. They might get a hit once in a while. Or there's some record labels that are just gouging fans. And I'm looking at a lot of those LP labels that just are, I hate the limited run and the excessive prices.
Like Mondo Evil Dead is a prime example. So
yeah, I hate that stuff. I hate it. And even some people will complain about 3,000 copy release of something, you know? But I truly wish that everything was still in print forever, so that the new generation will be able to enjoy what we enjoy. Because I can't imagine, well, I guess I can, because when I started, I couldn't find a lot of the albums that I wanted as a collector. But I couldn't imagine now, with all of these limited edition releases that have gone out of print, how much money you have to spend just to hear.
Like some James Horner stuff. It's like everything's $100.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. So, but thank goodness they're okay. You know, they're finding better elements for Space Camp. They've released Space Camp now 3 times, but you know what? That means that you have 3 times the amount that was out there before, and the new people who are soundtrack fans are finally going to get a chance to hear a great score, and that's what I like. Like, it's much like keeping Star Trek: The Motion Picture and all those Star Trek albums in print, so that people can have access. And I'm not the type of person who's like, I'm hoarding them and nobody else can have them. I hate that. I hate that mentality.
So there was a lot of talk on Facebook when this new 2-disc Star Trek The Motion Picture came out, saying, you know, why should I buy this? Why do I have to buy this? And I was just thinking, well, you don't have to buy it. If you're happy with what you've got, then that's it. You know,
exactly.
Nobody's forcing you to buy it. So.
Right. Like I don't need the extended matinee. It's a curiosity for me. There's about 2 cues that I want to hear from it, and I've got it. But it's not like I rarely listen to that album as it is. I mean, I'm glad to have the 30-minute version of U.S. Marshals. I have the extended one, but it's not like, I mean, again, due to the nature of my podcast or whatnot. But if I had to actually go out and buy this sort of stuff, I'd be really picky, and I wouldn't be like, oh, well, oh my God, we went to the first generation masters of Space Camp, and I only have the second generation masters. And like, I mean, the only real big difference I think as of lately would be I would pay my hard-earned money to get the new version of The Last Starfighter from Entrada because it sounds that much better. It has never sounded that good. Now that's something where I'll be like, yep, I'm willing to do an upgrade. But I mean, or if it's a John Williams expansion, that's an instant buy. But some of these things where it's like I would say about 75% of this stuff I haven't listened to. That's over here in my collection. And it's a lot of stuff that's in my closet. I probably, there's some that I haven't even spun. I've ripped it, but I have not listened to it.
That's a good problem to have.
And it is a great problem to have. You know, I'm not, and again, I'm not complaining. I'm just like, how much more do I need? Do I really need 5 copies of the Blue Max?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yes.
But we kind of talked about this last time, and you know, whether you're collecting something because it's collectible,
mm-hmm.
or you know it's got somebody's name on it, and you're collecting everything they've ever done, or do you collect it because that's something you want to listen to?
Yeah.
Years ago, I would collect stuff because it had somebody's name on it, and I was trying to get everything that they did. Now I collect stuff or I buy stuff because I want to listen to it. It's music that I like and I will listen to.
Right.
So if I order something or if I pay for something, it's because I want to listen to it. It's not going to be, oh, I've got it now. I'm glad I've got it, but I won't listen to it. I'm just going to put it on a shelf. To me, that's just a waste of space.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I find that the biggest value for me now are the liner notes. I love the fact that we are now going to get some information on, like, if it's the first expansion of an album. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I went and picked up 5 albums from LalaLand that I only had digitally, and I didn't have the liner notes for them. And so now I'm way more excited about the words than I am the music. I mean, I've already had the music, but now it's like, oh, great, I got the book, and now I can flip through and I'm going to learn something. So every time a new release comes out, the first thing I go to is if it's a digital version and I have the PDF, the liner notes. I'm reading the liner notes. I'm way more excited about that than I am about the music, because I love the production notes and all the tech talk and where it's coming from and why it was written that way. That's way more interest. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why I would continue to collect soundtracks, especially on an expansive level, would be because of exclusive liner notes. I love that. I'm glad they still do it. Wait, there was one other thing that someone was asking about the Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, that's like a whole dissertation right there. But,
okay. We want to talk about it later.
No. We can pop on that.
Okay.
Real fast. Retro says too many people following the crowd rather than making up their own minds about what to buy.
Yeah,
I think that happens a lot in record store day myself, because it's like, I gotta get that Taylor Swift like hot pink limited pressing Target exclusive with Coca-Cola coupon. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And all I'm saying is, if my Cowboys pre-order gets canceled, I'm gonna be really fucking pissed.
How long has that been on pre-order, man?
Well, it's not even supposed to be on pre-order because it's record store day, but it popped. I got an email about pre-order and it was 30% off. And I'm like, yes, take my money right now. And they took it.
They announced that a long time ago.
Better ship it. They had better ship it, because I ordered Lost in Space. I paid for it. 2 weeks later, we had to cancel your order. You've kept my money for 2 weeks.
Man,
you should send me that LP. But who's Birdman's sidekick? That was Cricket. Anders Fox says, good evening, gentlemen. Today we have celebrated Sweden's National Day. Well, happy Sweden Day. And he just saw the Orville because Erik made him do it.
If you haven't seen the Orville, I think it's on Disney Plus, and they are out Star Trekking Star Trek, and the music, you would never think that you'd ever hear music like that ever again in a television series. And oh my God, and I've been singing the praises of Kevin Kaska forever. Now, he has worked alongside John Williams, I think, and John Williams has taught him a few things. He has an album that is coupled up with the John Williams concert work. But if you want to get your first taste of Kevin Casca, we might have brought this up before. It's called The Tone Poems of Kevin Casca. And it's on YouTube, so you can sample it. But he has all of his stuff on his website too. Tone Poems of Kevin Casca. I want to get the name of the opening track. I think it's Battle of Atlantis. The Battle for Atlantis. It's a 12-minute action track, and it's a mix between Zam the Assassin from Attack of the Clones, the General Grievous action track from Revenge of the Sith, and Quidditch Third Year from Prisoner of Azkaban. That kind of style all slammed into one 12-minute track. It just doesn't stop, and it's got this great melody that runs through it as well. Is that it?
Yeah.
The tone poem with the volcano on it? Yeah.
I think you put a link to that a few months ago on the Scores and Soundtracks page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I looked up loads of other Kevin Casca stuff, and it's just brilliant stuff.
But to see him writing something to picture, and he's done it before, but not too many times, but to get that opportunity, I mean, to see Kevin Casca doing anything, all I have to then think of is like the guy producing the show must be a film music fan. And of course, Seth MacFarlane's a huge film music fan, just a huge fan of the orchestral score. And I hope that he gets to do more projects, more feature film projects, more television projects that are going to allow people like Ron Jones and Joel McNeely and John Debney and now Kevin Casca to get that opportunity to do what they probably couldn't do anymore in film. And to hear a Kevin Casca scored episode and to hear what he did, the launch, the dry dock launch of the Orville, the new retrofit Orville, it's up there with like some of the best dry dock leaving cues out of a Star Trek series. Expansive, beautiful, amazing 90-piece orchestra. It could not have been cheap to put it together. The action cues when the new shuttle, what do they call the shuttle? Is it the Pterodon? The new shuttle shows up, and it's just this sequence of it flying around, and Kevin Casca's just like going to town with the cue. And he writes this Tchaikovsky action track for like the targeting practice cue, but then he will slow it right down and just open up emotionally right at the end. He's channeling James Horner without directly copying him, but he adds some Horner isms. Like there's a rolling piano, that typical Horner, like rolling piano, like out of Pelican Brief, or just that slow rolling piano, those wonderful Horner chords, the horn theme. My God, it's one of the best scores I've heard all year. It'll be on my year-end list. I hope they release it. If not, I'm going to go after Casca himself and have him send me something so I can play it on my show. It's that good. And we're only one episode into this, what might be the last series, but we still have to hear from Debney and McNeely and Cotty, who's writing music as well. An incredible team of composers, the likes that I don't think we've ever seen before in TV, with the exception of being like on anthology series. I'm blown away. Absolutely blown away by it.
And does La La Land still have the $10 sale going on?
I hope so. And if nobody has those albums, especially season 2, McNeely wrote this incredible Star Wars-esque action track that lasts about 9 minutes long for the, what are the bad guys called? Not Cylons. They're I forgot what they're called. There's a great space battle in one of the later episodes of that series, and it's freaking enormous.
Is it a double episode that they do?
Yeah. So I think Debney wrote the first episode, and McNeely got all the good action music.
I was absolutely blown away by that. That was just a film level spectacle, wasn't it?
Right?
It was incredible. So yeah.
The show is so much fun. I mean, I think the episode actually was really well written, and it tackled some interesting issues. The acting wasn't all that great, but I think, like I said, if you're more interested into the next generation type of Star Trek than you are about the long form stuff that Star Trek is doing now, with the exception, I think, of Stranger New Worlds, that I've only seen 2 episodes and I like them, and I haven't caught up with the remaining episodes yet, because I think they're doing more kind of episodic stories than they are kind of that long form linear storage throughout each episode. This one feels like Next Generation, and I mean, it's definitely a Next Generation ripoff. It is. God, you know who they're basing the characters off of, but it's fun.
I think Seth MacFarlane admits that, and lovingly admits that.
Yeah,
and he said at the beginning that everybody's doing long form things, long story arcs, but he wanted to go back to that, adventure a week kind of format, which surprised me, because he's got Brannon Braga producing and writing on the show as well, who did the same for Star Trek and Star Trek Enterprise, and his thing was always the long story arc, but he's kind of embracing the week by week story.
Yeah, I think it's great. They're called Kalons, the bad guys.
Kalons, that's it.
Yeah. So McNeely wrote this gigantic, huge Q called Battle for Earth. That was on the promo that I got. It's called Battle for Earth, and it's 9 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's ridiculous. That was written for TV.
La La Land still has to sail till the 13th of this month.
Okay.
Season 1 is $10. Season 2 is $10, but it's out of stock.
Yeah, season 1, you can really hear the temp track bleed through. So, I mean, you're hearing everything from Star Trek 2 and Alien and all that sort of stuff. It really bleeds through in the music. But I think the composer's own voice kind of comes through in season 2, even though that action track I'm talking about with McNeely it's right out of, I think, Revenge of the Sith, but still it's not a direct ripoff, and it feels like McNeely. It feels like McNeely writing for Air Force One. That MiG attack cue,
yeah,
with kind of McNeely's own sort of, and it feels derogative, but it's like it's his own Williams-esque sound that he had with like Iron Will and Terminal Velocity and Squanto and all those earlier scores that he did. I'm just glad McNeely's working. I mean, he admittedly, we were all, from being on the message boards, we were all complaining like, oh, why is he on those Tinkerbell movies? And, he could be doing so much more. But I think he came out and said, well, you know what? They're just letting me do whatever. And I love those movies, so I can just write whatever music I want. I think it was like one of the best experiences he had making film music was with those Tinkerbell scores, and they're really good, and he enjoyed that process more than anything because nobody was interfering. So
that's the thing, but people said that about Jerry Goldsmith, about some of the the films that he worked on, and said, why did he do that film? He said, well, I was working with people I liked, and I had a good time doing it, and I got paid. So what's not to like?
You got to get paid.
Yeah.
Right. And Jerry Goldsmith is, he's come out and said he's like one of those rare people who got to do exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a film composer. Yeah. So anytime he had a job, he's doing the thing that he loves. It was never work. Yeah. It's hard work, but it's never like, oh, I got to go to the office today and do this. This is what he wanted to do. Speaking of, so Daniel, how's Mr. Baseball?
I got Mr. Baseball, and is it The Haunting or The Haunted, or
did you get The Hunted? Or sorry, The Haunted.
The Haunting.
The Haunted. Yes, I got them both on the same day, and I put Mr. Baseball in, and I was like, da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, and it's like, I got like halfway through, and I got to red light, changed disc, and I put in the other one, and I'm like, this has been in for like 2 days, and I'm not really hearing what I thought I would hear. So checked. Arabia back in for now. I didn't really care for either of those. They're just going to get filed in the Goldsmith section. And I know y'all had joked about Mr. Baseball, and that got me curious. But I'm like,
yeah, that's why I was surprised when you posted that video and you went, Mr. Baseball, and I thought,
like,
really?
I thought we warned you.
Did you get it for free or something? Or?
No, I paid for it. But I was curious, and I'm like, oh, I got to hear this. And
It's got
Well,
a
you've heard it.
lovely love theme.
I've heard
I
it.
like the love theme. It's really nice, but yeah, it's corny. I mean, it's
You know,
really corny.
I just figured he probably did what he was told to do,
Mm.
and
I like the film. I do. I like Tom Selleck.
The film's
in it.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a fish out of a water, washed up Major League Baseball player playing in Japan. I mean, God, there's a lot you couldn't get away with making a movie of that sort today, but it turns out nice. Although I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I'm not sure whether some of the more they're most likely racist jokes are going to hold up.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure there's no doubt that, you know, the American going over to Japan and having a well, anyway, whatever. I'm pretty sure that doesn't hold up at all. But we might have talked about this before, but the authenticity of the baseball is something that I care about, or the authenticity of sports and movies is something I care about. And that felt like the actual sport action worked. And it looks good. It's a good looking movie. So, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, but if it's on, you know, cable on a Sunday afternoon, check it out. So,
do you know what I've been listening to this week? And I've never actually seen the film, but I don't know why this came up. It was for the Love of the Game, Basil Polidorus, the score for that. It's a lovely score. I've never listened to. I was being aware of it for a long time, but you know, I'd never seen the film, so it didn't have the same interest. But I can't remember why I was steered towards that. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Lovely score.
yeah, it's a weird combination of elements coming together to make that movie, because it's Sam Raimi, it's baseball, it's Kevin Costner, and it's Basil Polidorus, just things that Raimi hasn't worked on or worked with before, or people he hasn't worked with before. So it's what's such a weird combination, but it's a touching film. And again, the baseball's good. I mean, if you're into baseball, you'll appreciate the film. It's an aging pitcher, I think on his last game ever, and he just so happens to be pitching a perfect game. So there's no hits, no runs, no errors. And it's like one of the hardest things to do in baseball. I think only about 20 some odd pitchers in the history of baseball has ever pitched a perfect game. And so during the game, you know, he's going through his life and his relationship with his girlfriend. And it's really sweet. But Polidorus, I mean, it feels like a traditional sports score, but it still feels very much grounded in Polidorus's musical language. And I love the guitar work.
That surprised me, the guitar work, when that first appeared. I thought, "Ooh!" I thought, no, actually, it kind of works.
It fits. And then there's this lovely relationship montage cue that is, it's an extremely personal piece to me, mainly because it was like when my kids were born, they both had their individual mixed CDs that I would create for them. We listened to these CDs while I was feeding them before they went to bed. And so Charlotte had the relationship montage open that CD. So every night I'd take her to bed, feed her, and a relationship montage would always play. So I associate that piece of music with her all the time. Much like I associate Hurley's Handouts from Lost with my son Liam. It's just played all the time. So yeah, relationship montage is just beautiful little acoustic guitar piece, but it's a great score. Funny thing about that score, though, I remember it was 1999 and there was no announcement of a soundtrack release, although a rare promo came out, very short one, and it went for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And of course it was Varese Sarabande who, as always, would jump in, save the score, and finally release it commercially. But I couldn't imagine that poor couple of people that bought the promo for a stupid amount of money. And he got more music on the commercial release. So but it's lovely. It really is. And yeah, I mean, if you're into baseball, I think it's a good movie. I think it's a really, really good movie. Great special effects for the time too, because they didn't shoot in Yankee Stadium, but there's some shots that are like from down below, and then they made a computer generated Yankee Stadium all around Kevin Costner, because he's playing for the Detroit Tigers, so he's a visiting pitcher in Yankee Stadium, and they were able to recreate it. It's beautiful, really well done. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah,
and it's a great score.
It's funny you saying that. People had to wait for a score to be released. There were so many films, especially in the 80s, that didn't get score releases, but we now have them. I waited so long for so many scores. One I always wanted, because you mentioned The Last Starfighter, was Remo.
Yeah,
Remo Williams.
Yeah,
I remember going to see that at the cinema when it first came out, and that opening brassy fanfare, which is very similar at the very start to The Last Starfighter.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, oh, this is great. And the film was over. I enjoyed it. Just a popcorn action flick. I thought, I've got to get this. I've got to get this music. Nothing. And it was, when was it the first release? Was it?
It was on a promo. And really? Then Intrada released it first, I want to say. All I know is it's kind of funny. The reason I laughed when you brought it up is I think there's like 4 separate releases of it now. But I think it's Intrada. I'm gonna look at Soundtrack Collector. I know that Safin had a promo out which had a few selections from Remo on it, and there was a extended suite on one of those Adele records. I think it was City of Prague. I could be wrong. They did they did like a 20-minute Goonie suite. I think they did Remo Williams, really early 90s.
Oh, recording. I remember that. Yeah,
the music of adventure or something like that. I forgot what they were called.
And it had Savage Island on it as well, by also known as Nathan Hayes, if I remember rightly.
Like cliffhanger, action and adventure in the movies. Oh yeah, so it was a 7.5-minute suite of Remo Williams. I was like, what year was that? 1995. And so you're right, you still didn't have an official soundtrack out. But Remo Williams. Yeah, okay, you had your promo in 2000. Intrada. Note for Note music. Oh, and Perseverance Records was 2006.
Perseverance is the one I've got, I think.
Yes. So then Intrada did it in 2011, and then Note for Note did it again in 2020. So there are 4 separate releases of it. Oh, and there's an isolated score track on the Twilight Time DVD. And Best of Adventure, released on Adele in 1994. It was a 2 CD set. Man, and I remember the Fandango suite on Alan Silvestri. Nobody had heard that before. Arachnophobia. No, maybe that came out before. There's the Remo suite. Jaws the Revenge for 11 minutes. Goonies for 20.
Again, Goonies was another one of those scores that was just...
Oh, it took forever.
Yeah.
And now there's 3 different versions of it, all released by Varese, and it's on LP.
A couple different LPs.
I think the first Goonies has extra music on it, like the...
Yeah, it had 3 extra tracks called alternates, I think.
Right.
Including music for the octopus scene, I think.
That's correct. And then the alternate opening, the original opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 2 CD set. So you had the original Fratelli Chase, Triple Stones and a Ball. They're here in Skull Cave Chase and Octopus. And then they released it again. Oh, yeah. So that was a 2 CD set, right? So the Goonies original was 2 CDs. And then they released their single disc, which didn't have any extras. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Goonies, Back to the Future. Man. And it's funny. Sorry, you know what? Let's see your CDs and then I'll complain later.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Matinee.
Excellent. So The first track I highly recommend on Matinee. It's only like 90 seconds long.
I usually put them in and listen to the whole thing through, but I can skip around.
Are you familiar with it?
I've never seen the film.
So the track is called, pretty sure it's called Mobilization.
Track number 5.
It sounds like Twilight's Last Gleaming and a couple other of these militaristic scores that that Goldsmith has done. It's really one of the rare uber serious tracks from the score. Because it's like they're going they're outside of the theater going across the beach, and they see all the missiles that are coming down the street as they're getting set up on the beaches in Florida, just waiting for World War III to erupt. But it's got this awesome percussive, typical Jerry Goldsmith motif going on. It's really really cool.
They covered that on the Goldsmith Odyssey, didn't they? And they were saying, oh, it's similar to this, it's similar to that, and they played different cues in different films. You thought, right, I see what he's doing there.
Yep. It's really good. But I remember, like, I got it and I'm like, I have to go. Oh man. And it's such a great movie.
It is.
It is so underrated.
Wow.
Yeah. And for some reason, I remember reading that Goldsmith had scored the entire monster movie. It scored Mant. But I didn't realize that was all library cues. So I was so wrong on that one. I swear to God, I read that Goldsmith had written so it was like writing 2 scores in one. But still, besides that, what a riot of a film. It's really, really good.
Gigawat, thank you for coming by today. Sorry you have to run. But to answer your question, I was being funny with episode 5, like the Empire Strikes Back, so I put the Bat Strikes Back to answer your question from earlier. I was just being funny.
So do you want to talk about Last Mohicans?
Yeah, I hate the re-recording. I think it sounds horrible. Sounds like I'm listening to it underwater with a bucket of water over my head while I'm underwater.
I don't know what happens to your stereo at that time, but I think it's pretty solid.
I think it's good as well.
Yeah. I've listened to everything that I own, and it was just like, what? It's like, what's wrong with this? It sounds horrible. And I put in the original one, and I'm like, thank you. You.
Are you turning the CD around with your fingers as you keep going?
No, I'm not.
You will hate this album. It sounds muddy. Tell the whole world.
So I'm guessing both of y'all like the re-recording.
I'm going to have to listen to it again, but I thought it was all right. I like the presentation because it's pretty much in chronological order.
I was thrilled about that, but
but it was an odd choice, though, right? I mean, that was 1998. I think it was recorded. I mean, it was such a short period of time between the original and like I don't understand the reason why they would do that. It was so odd. I don't know whether it says in the liner notes. A buddy of mine actually wrote the notes. His name is Paul Tonks. He was a really good film music journalist, and then he became a cop in London, and that's what he does nowadays. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Yeah.
See.
But I liked it. I'm gonna have to listen to it again. For sure.
Are they back again today?
But I mean, does anybody else that has heard Lost the Mohicans in the chat have anything to say about it? I'm curious. Yeah, I'm trying to think of why they did it.
I wonder if I can find. Joe McNeely was the conductor, right?
Yeah, you know what's strange though? It's also shorter than the original album. It's like the re-recording's 46 minutes. The original album's 55 minutes.
It's missing the song, isn't it?
Missing a song for like 2 minutes, but I'm wondering why they decided that this presentation was going to be so much shorter. Or is it just it's not just the Trevor Jones material, right?
No,
I think
it's both. It's both of them. It's Randy Edelman stuff as well.
I'm going to see if I can find the notes on Music Brains because I can't find my original album right now. But I'm wondering whether they say why they did it. I highly doubt it. But
Okay, so here's the Elcont re-recording. Can y'all hear that?
no.
Not really.
Oh, God, it was released in 2000. Okay. But why? Oh, okay. So there was a 2000 expanded edition on DVD of the film. So they might have done it in coordination with that timing.
And that's like the only, I think, release that there is for it on DVD. It's the director's cut, which I don't care for it as much.
Yeah, the director's cut is short. It's one of those shorter versions as well, where he's actually kind of tightened the film.
I want the original version.
What a weird release. There's really no.
As you say, I thought the original recording or the original release it sounded great, and it wasn't long after the film came out that they produced this re-recording, and I don't know why.
And the fact that it's not expanded, that's the other thing, right? It's significantly shorter, which doesn't make any sense. And I'm wondering whether there's other information, like, I don't know. I find an old thread on Film Score Monthly as to why they did it, but I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to go and dig out the 2 copies of it. Hang on.
Oh, right. Yeah. Can you find it? If you, I would listen to it on Spotify if they have it, or listen to it on YouTube before going out and purchasing it. Then you'd kind of have an idea of what it's like. But I don't necessarily think this is something that's essential. If you already have the original release, I think it's just that, if I'm not mistaken, they've placed it in chronological order on the re-recording.
You've got the Elcont, Bridget Lacrosse. Well, if you open with Elcont, then you're missing that opening credit bit. Garden scene. Well, this is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a curiosity. I would say that's what it is. But I don't know. I don't know why you would listen to the re-recording over the original recording, because I don't think it improves it. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I was happy to play it on my show a while back. Again, just as an alternate take on it. And it might be something that you might like. You might like the more concert hall sound. So this is interesting. So in the re-recording notes, it says the final cue sheets show approximately 28.5 minutes of music from Edelman and 48.5 music from Jones. Yet they release and record, or they record and release only 46 minutes of music for the re-recording. Seems strange. Maybe that's all they had. I mean, I know Trevor Jones is a real stickler about his music, right? He's still hoarding the original session tapes for The Dark Crystal and will not let anybody release it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't explain in the notes why this. I mean, they explain about how the score was portioned out and the edits that were made to the director's expanded edition.
Right.
But they don't say, the reason for the re-recording.
Yeah, it seems really, really, really odd.
I can sometimes understand it if the original recording wasn't great and it was such a good score that they felt it needed a better presentation of it, because I thought the original presentation was fine.
So is it out of print? So is the original recording out of print? Maybe that's the reason.
It's all over eBay, though.
But I mean,
that was one of the definitive soundtracks of the 90s, though.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
I mean, it was a huge seller. I mean, and it would have been was going to get an Academy Award nomination as well, with the exception of they broke the rules with the 2 composer rule. So I don't know. Yeah, that's an oddity. That's really odd. Now, I mean, it would have been interesting to have Trevor Jones as the conductor come back and maybe conduct his stuff with a new sound and maybe added some extra material. I think I would have been fascinated with that, much like Stu Phillips came back and re-recorded his Battlestar Galactica music, and Elmer Bernstein would re-record some of his music, I mean in condensed form, but we got Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, we got Kill a Mockingbird. Goldsmith recorded many of his scores. He also recorded many of Alex North's scores.
Elmer Bernstein came over here and re-recorded some of his scores as well.
Yeah. So I think, weird. What a weird one. I wish I could find a reason why. And I'm pretty sure the best place would look was be on the
internet
FSM forum. But I mean, because sometimes Robert Townsend would. Here's an interesting thread. Last of the Mohicans, which one or not? So, I mean, they're saying that the one guy reviewed it as, get both if possible, because the coverage and the track listing in the McNeely recording is worth it, along with the fuller orchestrations of the Edelman material. Yeah, I just don't get it.
But y'all actually think that the re-recording sounds clear to you?
Sorry?
The re-recording sounds clear to you? I'm
gonna mute my mic and I'm gonna listen to The Hunt for just a second, and I'll let you know what I feel like. Hold on a minute.
It's like a lot of re-recordings. I think both recordings have merit. I like them both. I like the bigger, expansive sound of the re-recording, but I like the punchiness of the original. So, but you're not a fan of the re-recording. You think it's awful.
I do, because it sounds like I'm listening to it with my head in a bucket full of water.
You said that about the John Williams concert, the Berlin concert as well.
I've said it about the reissue of the Garbage version 2.0 on LP that came out last summer. I put it on the LP player, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I took it off, and I'm like, this doesn't sound right. And I got out the version from 5-10 years ago whenever it came out. And I'm like, this sounds good. This new one, it's like I've got a bucket full of water over my head.
Maybe you've just got a couple of Duff recordings. I don't know. It's an odd one.
I mean, I've tried them on different devices and in different cars, and it's still the same for me.
Man, they are pretty close to being almost equal. I mean, I think the re-recording adds a little bit more low end to it, but when that trumpet pierces for that main theme during the opening track, hearing them doing an A/B comparison, they both sound vibrant. And the Elk Hunt is a meaty cue, and they both sound like, again, I would say the re-recording is a little bit more beefy. Although I do recognize in the Elk Hunt that I think the original recording has a little bit more mid clarity, but I think they're pretty close, which is odd for a Royal Scottish National Orchestra recording, because usually that's very concert hall. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It's like professional orchestra, preschool orchestra.
It's weird. Yeah, I would do an A/B with the Mohicans theme. And I mean, and that's the great thing about iTunes is I can literally just go through each, hit the the right moment, and almost hear them back to back as they should. And yeah, they sound man, I can't fault the re-recording at all. I mean, again, when we're talking about Marnie, was it Marnie? I think it's Marnie. That sounds like garbage. Or is it Torn Curtain? It's one of them. One of them sounds just absolutely dreadful. Whereas if you listen to the Elmer Bernstein Film Music Collection version of it, yeah, it's night and day. Absolutely. And even though I feel like Bernstein was using a smaller orchestra and tighter mics on the instruments, the Torn Curtain stuff, holy smokes, is that ever pack a punch.
A few weeks ago, we were talking about re-recordings, and Rambo came up, and you mentioned you were putting something together. Did you listen to that David Newman re-recording?
Yeah, very good.
It is. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
It's on the list. It's in that. Yeah. When I eventually get to that show, I'm like, oh, thanks, Ian. You will definitely be credited for that one because it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. He also did a re-recording of from Legend as well, which I thought was very good.
Yeah, it's
because I've never heard Legend re-recorded. They've always, when people do compilations, they always give tracks directly from the film.
You're right.
And use those.
Right. I haven't heard that. So, yeah, the Rambo one was excellent. I would never expected anybody to record that. So, sweet.
I told you just got to give international shipments a lot of time to get here.
Yeah, that was this. It's so pretty. And it was $5. Do you have this, Daniel?
I don't. No.
Oh my God. It's 3 volumes of the film music of Vaughan Williams, and you get the premiere recording of Scott of the Antarctic, which I think is in suite form, People's Land, 49th Parallel, The Dim Little Island, The England of Elizabeth, The Story of the Flemish Farm, The Loves of Joanna Godden, and Bitter Springs. And it comes in this nice little package. Opens up beautifully. You get your 3 discs and those sleeves.
Okay.
Although I would have preferred to have like the original covers, but you are then given the booklets in full with the covers. So you get that one, that one, that one, and all the notes, which I mean extensive. Like that's the print inside, and it just goes over everything. And it's beautiful. Like Rumen Gumba and the BBC Philharmonic. Whew. Talk about another group that is doing re-recordings or doing film music justice with their recordings. They have a massive series of recordings. And if you don't have any Chandos albums, you're missing out. I think you really, really are. And I think we discussed it before, where they present them in more kind of like classical suites, very lengthy suites. Or they present like a score, like a symphony, and then we'll present another shorter suite. But I think this is one of, like, for my money, that $5, and then I was like $5 shipping, like $10 for this. God, brilliant music, absolutely brilliant.
It's like the Charles Gerhardt of the modern age.
Oh yeah. They really do it justice, really do. And it was really sad that they recorded their Seahawk around the same time as the William Stromberg Seahawk, which I think is extraordinary. But their Seahawk is really good. Really, really good. And they have an English chorus singing instead of the Moscow one, which is kind of funny hearing that English tune with heavy Russian accents. But yeah, and they did a great job on their Robin Hood, the Adventures of Robin Hood suite. Yeah, they just do, and they've exposed so many composers that you might have forgotten about. It's a huge series of recordings, and I hope they keep going. I really do, because they do great work, great work. It's worth your money to grab it and then just spend days just listening, sitting there and listening. There's a lot of care, and the essays are fantastic. They get film experts and soundtrack experts to come in and really talk about the scores and films properly. So, yeah, lovely stuff.
They did a great one. Is it Bliss and his score for The Shape of Things to Come? That's just stupendous.
Yep, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So once you're done Tadlow, Daniel, you can go on to Chandos.
Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about Basil Podoris, and I don't know if y'all know this, but who is it? It's the Los Angeles Film Orchestra is having a Doors concert at the end of the month.
Yep.
I am trying to find out if there is a live streaming option.
I don't know. You know who you should talk to? You should try to get in touch with Robert Townsend, because that would be amazing. They would make so much more money. Because there's a lot of people interested in seeing it. And it's going to be a once in a lifetime thing, but they really should charge. They should stream it.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Townsend kind of announced it a few days ago on his Facebook page, and there were loads of comments saying, "Is this going to be streaming? Is this going to be streaming?" Blah 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 blah. But he's put kind of thumbs up, but
God, I hope so.
There's been no confirmation.
It doesn't say on the website for streaming option, but I called and left a message today, and I emailed today. And I said, "Is there a live stream option? Because if so, I have a credit card."
Well, yeah, I mean, we're living in this, day and age where streaming technology it's really really good, and we witnessed that with the Houston Symphony live stream, which was marvelous. I mean, I was beyond impressed with that.
They did a good job. I was happy.
But I don't think I expected the quality of video and sound and then the performance to be that good. But these guys are going to do a great job, and I'm pretty sure like Christopher Leonards is going to be there conducting some of it. I think he's done some. He's conducted the Civilization theme from Conan before, and it's Civilization. Is it Civilization? Am I got the wrong or
Diego Navarro is going to be there too.
Oh, I forgot what's the name of the theme. So stupid. I'm thinking Civilization. That might be Lair. Conan. What is the name of that theme? It's beautiful. And I'm just having a brain fart right now.
I think you're right. I think it is.
Theology and Civilization theme. And Leonards has conducted that before, and it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But I mean, I'm looking forward to hear what else they're going to do. I hope they do in like expansive Starship Troopers, not just the Clendathu March or drop. I'm hoping it's expanded. Like even so, we were talking about end credits before, and I for some reason, like I have a favorites playlist in iTunes that has like 14,000 or 1,400 tracks that are just like, these are all the ones that I really love. I put on my iPod, and anytime I'm driving, all I play is this playlist. And the Starship Troopers credits came on, and that's a patchwork credit piece, but it's really well done. I mean, really well done. It has like the major highlights. And I would love it if that was performed in concert at some point. I think it's like 12 minutes long. But has all like the big meaty action sequences. That one part where they're in the shuttle flying to Jolly Roger.
That's a fantastic piece of music.
Man. So, I mean, that just feels like old school, like 1980s sci-fi adventure music.
Yeah.
And I would love it if that was performed. Not just not the typical, like if it's for love of the game, play more than just the theme. I would play the last pitch and then the final theme. Give us like 8-9 minutes of that. Do you think they should play Kimberly?
Yeah. I like that score. It's
lovely. I know. It's like, what's Kimberly? But I mean, there's so many. God, I mean, there's just so many. There's such a great opportunity.
It said they're doing Red October. Doing Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for October would be great. Have you ever heard Lassie?
Yes, I have Lassie.
Lovely. Of course the Blue Lagoon music. Oh my God, if they do the that big action track from Big Wednesday, that would just blow the roof off the event. I'm trying to think of what else would be
Do
awesome.
you know what I would love to hear in concert is The Attack from Quigley Down Under.
I was thinking the exact same thing. As long as they have a banjo player.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm sure you can find one in Los Angeles somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So that just seems like a great concert. And I would love, yeah, I mean, they can make a fortune off of people.
If they give me the same deal that like Houston did, or if it's just like, close to it, I'm going to go ahead and have a repeat of Houston.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be there.
Yeah.
No doubt. So.
And you're right. I don't know why they're not all going to offering that, because only so many people can go to Los Angeles for a concert.
I mean, it could be a rights thing, and that's an extra negotiation, and I can understand that. Yeah, you can perform it live, have it on YouTube for 24 hours, and I'm sure that's a whole licensing thing. But I mean, that's a lot more work than it is a lot of work. Broadcasting licensing is that's a whole other nightmare, and maybe they don't want to deal with it. But I just feel like, we're not in Los Angeles and all these amazing concerts. Like, I mean, like, the Hollywood Bowl could easily do the John Williams night for everybody in the world. You know how much extra revenue they would bring in for that? And the thing is, those concerts are never available. That's the other thing. They're never available. And some of the great, like, he premiered that new piece, what is it? The Centennial Overture or whatever it was.
Oh,
I mean, are we going to get that recorded at some point? I don't know.
I hope so. I really hope so.
It was great seeing two versions of City Progs. Lawrence, which one do you have, Birdman? Wow.
He has the import version.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. So there are two versions.
I don't think it's an import.
Yeah, there's an earlier '90s recording. The one you want is Nick Rain. Jeez. Go to.
I know he's the conductor.
Yeah, you want the one where. Sorry, I'm going to get this right for you. The cover. Where's the cover? So it's a silhouette of Lawrence on the Campbell with the sun in the background. And so you'll see limited 2 CD collector's edition up at the top, world premiere recording of the complete score. So that's the one you want to get. It's 2 CDs. And the cool thing about that album, much like the Blue Max one, is that a whole bunch of extra Maurice Jarre suites. And one of my favorites is Moon Over Parador. I absolutely love that. But it has like a suite from Prancer, Sunshine, Solar Crisis, Firefox. That end credit suite's awesome. It has a new version of Dead Poets Society, Jesus of Nazareth. So yeah, it's a 2 CD set. Nick Rain conducting, Crouch End Festival Chorus, and City Prague Philharmonic, and it came out. I'm looking for the year. I can't remember, but you can get it for like 17 pounds through Tadlow. But there is another recording of it, and that's the one James Fitzpatrick doesn't like. That was the earlier one.
It's funny you should mention Moon Over Parador, because I dug out some of these today. I've got
cool.
They're all over the place. But in the record reviews section.
Oh, wow.
Moon Over Parador.
I love that movie. I love that movie, and I love that score. I think it's great. Yeah.
It got 4 out of 5, the score.
Yeah, I would. It's fantastic. So yeah, hopefully you don't get the earlier one, which is on Silver Screen Records, which was the Philharmonia Orchestra. It's not bad. It's Tony Bremer conducted, I think, and it's just I think there was an imbalance in the mix. I think it was really left heavy for some reason. He just didn't like the way it was recorded. Yeah. So 2010. Yes, I think that's how old it is. I almost lost that album. I gave it to my former boss because he was a really big fan of Lawrence of Arabia, and he never gave it back to me. And then I lost my job, and I'm like, no way are you going to take that from me, you jerk. And I was thinking, there's no way he's going to give it back to me. So I
So you broke into his house and got it back.
I typed to the his assistant, and I'm like, I know I don't want to see him again, but can he please bring in this one thing that I want back? And that's this album that I let him borrow for like 6 years. And I got it back. So thank goodness. It's lovely. I mean, that's when I realized, I think that's the one where I'm like, yeah, Tadlow's really up their game. I mean, True Grit and everything building up to that was awesome, but Lawrence there was something about the recording. They changed just a little bit, but there's a clarity about it. And there's a real power and a balance in the mix. Because before, remember those prog albums were just so brass heavy and really compressed and just like, it was like a wall of sound.
But the brass wasn't particularly good either.
Right.
So
yeah. And so when I heard that, I'm like, oh man, this is not an easy piece of music. This is pretty difficult. But the fact that they've been handling scores by Tiomkin and Waxman, oh my God, like the Taras Bulba album, that was another one I was worried about. I'm like, how are they ever going to perform that? The gypsy music, like, come on, that's breakneck speed stuff. And they nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And so from those point on, I was like, yeah, Tadlow can really do no wrong with the exception of Conan the Barbarian. But Destroyer, and the cool thing about Destroyer is that they have the Conan stage spectacular music on there as well. So it's like Conan 3.
That's right, yeah.
By Basil Paul Douris, and it's like a 30-minute expansive suite. And the only way you could get that was on a promo through Supertracks, which had the original recording of it. But they, thank God, released a commercial version of it, perfectly re-recorded. So good. So good. Yeah. I love those. I love those albums. I want to listen to them when I'm done now.
Speaking about albums.
Oh, you got another one? Have these been coming in while we've been doing this conversation?
What is this? I thought this was my Stanley and Iris, but this doesn't look like it.
Daniel, if you don't know what it is, have a look inside.
Okay. Okay. Casino Royale, finally, on LP.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
It was 30% off like 3 weeks ago. Where the hell did this thing ship from? No return address. Okay, well, thank you, no return address. No, I got Stanley and Iris on LP, but I didn't realize it was coming from Great Britain. I have to sign for it. And Saturday, when they knocked on the door at 7 o'clock at night, I was in the bath, so I didn't get to sign for it. So I guess I'll have to go pick it up. But
is that the Stanley Iris? Is it expanded or is it the original?
It's the original.
Okay, well, that's a lovely presentation. I love it.
Yeah,
that's
my grandmother really loved that film score.
That's great. So Casino Royale, is that the expanded presentation or is that like just what was originally on CD?
Standard.
Okay.
Do you know, I prefer the standard presentation of the Casino Royale score. The expanded one just seems they've tacked on extra stuff just to have extra stuff.
I think there's just only like one cue that might have had Vesper's theme in there somewhere that we hadn't heard before, I think. But
this is what's been really perturbing me about the new Bond soundtracks. They don't have the song on them.
Yep.
Nah.
That's brutal.
I thought this was going to have the Chris Cornell song on it. No, not here at all.
I don't know why that is. I don't know why. I have no idea. And I don't know whether it can't be a rights issue. It can't.
It's bizarre because Arnold wrote the song with him. So,
I mean, now I don't. So here's the thing about rights. And I don't know whether this is totally different because it's actually rejecting a composer because of the record label he was attached to. So I'm not sure whether you guys know that Robert Folk was supposed to score GoldenEye.
Really?
Yeah. He was pretty much almost signed and ready to go. And the problem is that the producers needed which one's that, season 1?
Season 1.
Nice. So, but the producers needed a composer that was on the Virgin label, I think, and Robert Folk was signed with somebody else, and so that's why he lost the job.
That's
But he was up and ready. Like, the producers had heard his scores. I think they came and saw a recording session, and they're like, "Yeah, you are the one that we want." And he was, I mean, moments away from writing that score. And then they're like, "No, we need somebody from this." So then I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and read Burlingame's book on how Sarah came about. But yeah, though that's one of those what if scores where you're like, man, I wish it had happened. I really do. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, would Folk's career have turned around? But I can't really say that because even David Arnold now stopped writing Bond music and he's getting nothing else except for TV, which is really sad. So, but I think Robert Folk
his Bond scores.
playing. Yeah.
Except for Die Another Day.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I mean, again, so that could be to my point where, like, is Cornell signed to a different label, and that's why it couldn't be on the soundtrack?
Well, I mean, again, Adele's not on Skyfall, and that piece of garbage isn't on Quantum of Solace,
right?
And
but they have Billie Eilish's song, but it's at the end.
Is that on the?
I think that's on the album.
Okay.
But it doesn't make any sense. And by the way, it would be really cool to have it on that album because you could have the film mix of Casino Royale, and then you can have the radio mix. They're both different, vastly different sounding, and it would have been great. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't make any sense to not have the songs, which are an integral part of the experience. Even though nowadays,
especially in a Bond film,
right? I mean, I couldn't imagine listening to A View to a Kill without hearing Duran Duran first.
Oh man, no. Best Bond song ever.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna have to.
What
I come from a very different era. I mean, there's James Bond fans that if they're watching this and they're like 60s, they're screaming at us.
Well, I'm going to start screaming. So, no. I mean, the first James Bond films I saw were the Sean Connery ones. The first James Bond film I ever saw was Thunderball, and then the one that really kind of made me go "wow" was You Only Live Twice, and I love one. And I love that expansive.
I mean, honestly, you can't go wrong with most of the songs. Really, I mean, there's, everybody's like, Goldfinger's the cream of the. It's just the top of the James Bond ladder of tunes. I grew up in a different era. I was introduced through Roger Moore, unfortunately. So like a couple of the first, but I mean, I also had it. Oh man, I was a huge Duran Duran fan as a kid as well. So I mean, that plays into it. Again, I can't say it's the best. It's my favorite. Because it just fits in with everything that I love about one James Bond and then about the sound of the 80s. I mean, I'm fine with Aha's Living Daylights, even though, I mean, that story behind that's is an absolute mess. Like the Barry and Aha just like
they hated each other, didn't they? Really?
Oh yeah, it was terrible. But I mean, the song I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay. I'm gonna lie. The View to a Kill is my second favorite. The one is that my favorite, which became one of the. It's a tragedy. Was Katie Lang's Surrender.
Yeah.
It just takes what was great about James Bond in the past, brought it to the present, and you had one of the most incredible voices at the time.
It's not Shirley Bassey, but it's damn close.
No, but and the problem is she's not commercial. You can't sell Katie Lang, which is so sad. And nowadays you get like Sam Smith winning Academy Awards for that dreadful tune from God, what the hell was the name of that film? I hated it so much.
Spectre.
God.
I tore that song up when I did a review. I ranked the Daniel Craig era Bond songs on a review.
I just think it's disgusting that the only time that those songs are winning Academy Awards, it starts with Adele and moves on from there. And the fact that they've won 3 now. Meanwhile, you had some of the best songs ever created by John Barry, and they didn't get a sniff. And then you have Katie Lang. I mean, God, the integration of that theme into the score.
It's phenomenal.
I mean, you talk about the proper way of bringing James Bond back, like especially after the mess that was GoldenEye, which I thought was a really good movie. I thought the score was just dreadful. So it's like David Arnold's pretty much saving the sound of James Bond. And of course he's going to write a pastiche score, but he also modernized it. And he has this incredible, perfectly sounding James Bond song. And that theme is, man, those wailing horns.
But that theme, it can be used as a romantic theme. And the couple of times he used it in the action scenes as well, it makes a really muscular action theme as well.
And it makes no sense now because their songs relegated the end titles. It's disgusting. And then have you seen the YouTube video where the person popped Katie Lang's song back into the main titles?
No.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, that film is not very good, but I would gladly go back and watch it again if that's, you had the White Knight sequence at the beginning, and then you had Katie Lang's song just, it's disgusting. And it's really disgusting because man, that song is so good. It is so good. And she is such an incredible talent.
And that White Knight track on the soundtrack is just.
Yeah. Oh, and then, I mean,
what a way to start out a Bond soundtrack.
Like one of the most underrated songs is the garbage tune from The World Is Not Enough. That's outside of the box thinking that you would not have nowadays for like, I mean, it's like, who's the hottest talent? Billie Eilish. Good. Automatic Academy Award. Why? Billie Eilish. Yeah. Adele. I mean, it's a fine song, but it's like, of course but I mean, David Arnold's not picking it based on the popularity of these bands or performers, right? I mean, Chris Cornell, he was huge in the 90s, but wasn't huge when Casino Royale came out. And I'm pretty sure that he and Soundgarden had already been broken up. But I mean, he went for the talent. And my God, Garbage. I mean, I know you love them, Daniel.
Are you saying that because Shirley Manson is in every room in my house?
No, I mean, because I saw the last video that you produced, but that band is incredible. She's incredible. Her voice is incredible, but it works for that song. It's not a commercial piece. It's like David Arnold's picking it because he's like, man, Katie Lang works for Surrender. Garbage works for that song. And Chris Cornell works because of the tone of the song. And it's so sad that the art isn't celebrated, just the commercial value of it.
That song, that Chris Cornell song from Casino Royale, if you play that right now, I will be singing that song for the next month. I cannot get it out of my head.
I know. It's a breath of fresh air, though, that song. It's so upbeat.
Yep. And the rest of them aren't now. They're all just sad.
I know, they're the dirges. But, the fact that you've got the composer of the film writing the song with whoever he's got to sing it for him, he can then incorporate that throughout the film. So you get a full, complete soundtrack rather than just music, then a random song, and then the rest of the film.
Yep. There's so many missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Like the Quantum of Solace song.
Oh, God.
Oh. Song. What are they thinking?
What happened? What happened after Casino Royale? That had the best song, the best Bond song of the entire Craig era. It just jumped off a cliff.
The scores are superior too. Like John Barry didn't get a sniff. He didn't, right? He didn't get any Academy Award nominations for his Bond material.
Don't think so.
Nobody got any. I think wasn't Thomas Newman the first ever composer of a Bond score to get a nomination?
Bill Conti, I think, was nominated.
Oh, was he?
For Your Eyes Only.
Jeez, oh no! Oh man, it's gross. It's gross because there's like, I mean, David Arnold, man, I can't. Academy Awards suck. Remember that. Just remember that. Remember, Academy Awards suck. So no need to harp on that crap. But it's like, damn, so many missed opportunities to celebrate true greatness, I think.
David Pensax put a message up there saying, "I adore the David Arnold Project CD."
It's good.
I think that was what got him the Bond gig in the first place. But he did some great work on that.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking David was trolling right there for a moment. I'm not going to read that comment because that's just wrong. Wrong. But he corrected himself. So.
Yeah.
Yes, garbage did the world is not enough. Yeah. And I remember, because, back in the day, you didn't have YouTube and you couldn't listen whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted to. Hard to believe, I know. But I think they came on David Letterman that night, and I got out the tape recorder, and I stayed up late, and they came on, and they played it, and I pressed record, and I had a cassette single until I could get, the soundtrack, like 2 weeks later. And I was...
I used to do the same thing. Entertainment Tonight was one of those rare programs on television that would actually cover recording sessions occasionally. So I had a whole tape of like making of stuff. And they once did a behind the scenes of Elliot Goldenthal's Sphere. So I wish I could find that tape because I'd put it up on YouTube easily, which I thought was quite unique. I was like, what are they doing? They're covering Sphere? Really? It was pretty neat to hear him talking about that score, and I think they're talking about film music as a whole, actually. But yeah, I used to tape as much stuff off the television as I could about film scoring if it was ever on there. If they ever advertised it, that, or I know there was a Titanic, like many Titanic segments where they did one for like Back to the Titanic. They did behind the scenes for that one, and yeah, I should find those tapes again and try to convert them because it's stuff you don't see nowadays. Sphere, man, that's one that's got to be expanded at some point too.
Is there not one, or is
that's another one that's probably in licensing hell, but it could be through. I mean, that's the thing. We all think it's going to be Varese, but like Varese, I don't know whether they're losing their rights to stuff because Matinee on Entrada makes absolutely no sense. So Sphere's weird because half the score was recorded in New York and half of it was recorded in Los Angeles. And I think what we have on the album is just the New York recording right now.
So you would have to pay. You'd have to double dip pay for the orchestras.
So I don't know whether New York is part of the union or not, and I don't know. But I know you'd have to pay the reuse fees for the Los Angeles recordings, but they're not that expensive anymore. But that might be a difficult album to get released. But I'm trying to think of like how many Goldenthal expanded editions are there? And most of them I think through La La Land, aren't they? Like Pet Sematary and Alien 3 and Batman, right? So I mean, and we're never going to see the Batman and Robin album ever. I don't think.
You say that today, but then like next week it'll.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe next week. It'd be great, but I don't know. Sphere would be fantastic. If that's part of their next batch, that would be great. But now I'm thinking that Varese is now going to start doing the Bourne series with John Powell, so I can foresee the rest of them coming out on Varese, part of their batches much. Or yeah, I'm trying to think of how far are we out of How to Train Your Dragon 3? Like 4 or 5 years now? Still waiting on expanded on that one. I'm not sure whether they can do it right now or not, but I'm pretty sure they're going to start working on the Bourne stuff because they just did Identity. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
What else we got on the docket, or else we finished for the day?
I'm excited to listen to this.
It's so the first season's a lot of fun just to play guess the temp track. And on top of that, the best thing is you get a episode scored completely by Bruce Broughton. It's the only one he did.
Ooh.
But he did rearrange the season 3 theme. It's a great new arrangement.
That's what Sorry, go on, Daniel.
Oh, well, I was just speaking of temp tracks. Someone had posted something on Sneakers the other day on the Facebook, and I've always enjoyed that movie, and I love the score.
That was Neil from Retro Reels. He
That's right.
picked it up cheap.
That's right. And I listened to the show that you did on Sneakers.
Oh, great!
And I always have the hardest time getting your stuff to play.
Really?
Yeah, I have to keep like pressing play. Yeah, it's like
what are you playing it on?
Well, I can't play it on the tablet for whatever reasons. I can eventually get it to play on the phone.
What kind of phone do you have?
Samsung.
Okay. What app are you playing it through? Like, do you go to my page and you play it through the page, or do you play it through like a podcast app?
I think one time or a couple times I've gotten into play on the internet.
Okay.
And this last time I actually had to download something.
Okay. Here's my suggestion for you on that one. Download an app called Good Pods.
Okay.
Now, what that's going to do, it's also going to help me with my status on Good Pods, but that'd be great.
Okay.
Good Pods is pretty cool because it's really great for indie podcasters. It takes the rankings. Like, most podcasting apps are like, oh, here's the podcast ranking. And it's all like the huge shows, right? That have so much money thrown at them. Well, you can hit a button and it'll toggle between all podcasts or just indie podcasts. And it's really great for discoverability. So if you can play it through Good Pods, and it's really great because you can also rank shows, like each show's individually. You can talk to the creators and whatever. But anyway, try that. It's a really good app and it's pretty solid. And it's I use it quite a bit. Either that or I go through the Apple Player, and it also plays well on Spotify. But if you can go through Good Pods, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I'll just do that.
Yeah, I'll give you some extra plays. That'd be great.
I like listening to your shows. I'm always having issues with them not wanting to jive with the phone.
Okay. Yeah, because I gotta fix the page. I've got to find a better player on my page because I'm using an Apple one now, and I don't think that jives with Samsung phones. So I've got to switch back to, anyway, that's a whole mess. But if you can go through an app, any app, I would highly recommend Good Pods. And anybody out there that's still on this show and listening, if you want to listen to my show, please download Good Pods and listen to it through Good Pods. That would help me out immensely. But yeah, Sneakers, man, that was one of my favorite shows.
But do you think it was temp tracked with the conspirators from JFK?
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
Because
that ticking block stuff is
yeah. So did John Williams inspire an entire subsect of James Horner?
Everybody, I go back and listen to The Usual Suspects. John Ottman's got the conspirators all over that soundtrack. Anything with the clicking block. I mean, crying out loud, John Williams reuses it in Jurassic Park. So, but I think, and I'm not sure whether you heard it on the show, but that score is a transitional score for James Horner.
Yeah, you would
never
pre-Apollo 13.
Yeah, any of that material in his Hornerisms, you will not hear in any other score previous. He created a whole brand new set of sounds and styles that would follow him throughout the 90s, and it all comes back to Sneakers, with the exception of the 4-note danger motif, which he hides so brilliantly in that score. And then, a lot of people are like, oh, he ripped off the saxophone from Jerry Goldsmith and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, Horner's been using sax since the 80s. But it's a smart score. It's so different. I mean, people complain all the time about Horner copying this, copying that. My God, this is probably the most fresh score besides Vibes, Chum Scrubber, All the King's Men. Those are the ones that just oh my God, he's doing something completely different. But Sneakers, I've heard through the grapevine, is probably coming out as an expanded edition.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And there's 3 cues that I play on my show that are ripped from the DVD, are 3 cues that I can't wait to hear on their own, especially the Playtronics break-in part 1. There's a whole build-up before they actually get into the Playtronics and actually do the whole entire break-in. he plays these amazing chords during that sequence that you don't even hear on the album. And it's like dun 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 dun, and he's like, rolling around all the suspense stuff. And I'm like, what is this? It's so cool. And it's all done on piano. Really, really neat. And you don't hear it elsewhere. Really cool stuff. It's like a 4-minute sequence just before that huge break-in sequence. So Sneakers would be a most welcome expansion. And I hope we get it this year because it's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant score.
I think Horner was at his best when he was doing slightly smaller scale things where they've with the bigger films, they were probably saying, we want it to sound like this. We want it, not what you did before. But with the smaller scale films, they were saying, well, give us something,
Yeah. And I think he reacted to those type of projects much more positively. Like, I know he got rejected from Ender's Game. I just don't see how he can do anything different with a sci-fi score that it seems like he's already done before. But I mean, we get something like Boy in the Striped Pajamas. He can just pour on the emotion, or The House of Sand and Fog. Holy smokes, that just rips your heart out. But he's so good at that. But then he was great. Like just before he died, he was doing what is the name of the wolf movie? Not Balto. Wolf Totem.
Wolf Totem.
Wolf Totem.
He finally got a chance to go back and do this expansive adventure score with the director he's worked with before, and it just came out so beautifully, even though kind of that main theme was ripped off of Zimmer's score from the Da Vinci Code. And I hope I didn't ruin that for anybody out there, but listen to the main theme from Da Vinci Code and then listen to Wolf Totem. But yeah, he was starting to he was going to start picking projects that he really, really wanted to work on. And it's just sad that he passed.
Yeah.
I mean, he was going to work again with Mel Gibson on that war movie. And then he was going to work on what was that that Matt Damon film that Ramin Djawadi eventually scored, The Great Wall. It was planned. I mean, man,
I would like to have heard that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been so good. But then he was still doing those smaller projects. The 33 and Southpaw. He was getting back into classical work still. Going back to that that part of his life that let him down so hard in the 70s. And it was going to be an exciting time for Horner. Horner in the 60s would have been amazing. I think it would have been amazing. But yeah, I really do hope we get Sneakers. Everybody's got to experience that one. And I mean, I know it's easy for people to look at that and go, oh, listen to all those Hornerisms. But yeah, that's the score that started those isms. It's such a smart score too. It is that score is all of the tension in the film. Without it, you don't get the tension at all. So brilliant. Like, you feel what those characters are going through because of the music. It's brilliant scoring. Absolutely brilliant.
I wanted to mention something earlier on when we were talking about the Orville and Seth MacFarlane, but because I thought the Orville was going to be Family Guy in space.
Yes,
and I was pleasantly surprised that it was proper sci-fi. But anyway, that apart, on one of the Family Guy Star Wars DVD and Blu-ray releases, Seth MacFarlane interviews George Lucas. I don't know whether you've seen this,
right?
But he starts talking about John Williams and the music for Star Wars, and he asked George Lucas, do you remember? Do you listen to the music? Do you remember any of them? And he tries out some music from the films, and he tries out the Hoth battle music, the da-lum, da-lum, and he's doing it exactly like I'm doing it, but he's doing that in front of George Lucas.
Yeah.
And George Lucas has no idea about the music. I mean, he loves the music, but he's no idea where the music's from, or he can't remember any of it.
Right.
I just think that it was just when he, as soon as he started doing that, I was going, that's hot.
Well, maybe he doesn't remember it because he took those pianos out of the mix.
maybe that was his. But I just thought that was lovely.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the best jokes in Family Guy was when he did an entire sequence just humming the Indy's First Adventure from Last Crusade, and it's like only a certain amount of people are going to get this joke, and you're milking this joke. It's like, what? And that's where you can just tell he loves film music. He just loves me. He loves big band music.
Yeah.
And that's, he's one of those kind of like film music heroes that I just hope doesn't get swallowed up by Hollywood and is able to, that's why I wanted Orville to be such a success. I wanted it to be huge. And it's because it's his baby and he controls it. And I wanted it to be like something where it could just go on for seasons and then eventually he'd get offered something. And I mean, because he did, like Ted and Ted 2, still working with Walter Murphy. He had his Western, and he got Joel McNeely to write music for that, but it's really heavy temp track. But I mean, Orville was something where it was like, when he picked those composers, I was like, only a super film music fan would have gone out and got those guys. And there's a reason why he went out and got them. And I just hope that once he's done with the Orville, and because I don't think he has a stake at all in Family Guy and American Dad and all that anymore. I mean, he just provides the voices. That he moves on and does some great films. Because I think he's a pretty solid director. I mean, he's growing. I mean, he basically learned how to direct on his Western, and then he's learning how to direct and tell stories and be a better even actor in the Orville. But I just hope it continues just for the sake of film music. I mean, I know it's TV music, but just for the sake of guys like Bruce Broughton and Joel McNeely and, Kevin Casca, who's deserved a break for the longest time. And I just applaud McFarlane for bringing him in. That's just that's thinking outside of the box, and that's giving someone who truly deserves a shot. And you can tell it's like John Williams working on the Force Awakens. He's thinking this could be the last Star Wars we're ever doing. I'm just going to throw everything I got at this thing. And I think that's what Casca did with episode 1 of the Orville. It's like, man, when am I going to have another opportunity to do a space adventure? Yeah. And he just threw everything he had at it, and he's so good. And he did it without sounding like a pastiche, right? It still sounded like that 80s adventure stuff. It sounded like Williams, but it didn't. It sounded different. It sounded fresh. It sounded as if maybe like John Williams had written a brand new score, and this is what it was. I mean, I know that seems kind of like a backhanded compliment, but you know what I mean? It just felt like it didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like there was a temp track. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
It felt like it belonged.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like it's the score that episode deserved and needed. And we don't hear stuff like that too often. I mean, I was just blown away. There was points I was rewinding back. I'm like, I need to hear that again. It took me 2 hours to watch an hour-long episode. It was brilliant. So I just hope we get more of that. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the rest of the series and see where the music goes. I'm so excited. Because it's the kind of music that I like. That's the music I like. I like that complex stuff. I like that fun. It felt fun. That's the thing. Fun. I miss the fun. A nice adventure theme. You can just smile and like, yeah, it was great. Pump your fist to and have a good time. So, yeah.
Well, my battery's going to die here pretty soon, so we should probably wrap it up.
Sure.
Ian, you got anything coming up on your channel?
I've got a couple of things. I've been making some lists, as well as various challenges, which I've got listed down somewhere. I'm losing track of all these different things.
It's hard work being a content creator.
I'll give you a quick thing. war films.
Okay.
Holy cow.
That's all the kind of war film.
Is that a top 5 list?
Well, yeah, that's a Birdman top 5, obviously.
Okay. I thought so. It looked like it. You know, 2 pages.
And I'm going to do Western scores.
Wow.
Okay.
So I've made a list of all the Western scores I own. So, and then I was going to do a top 10, but I'm probably going to do a Birdman Logic thing. So
cool.
We'll see how that turns out.
Like part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 5.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I'm extremely jealous and envious about how much time you guys have to do this. I want to do more, but I'm just, oh man, I just don't have time for anything else. And so I love living through your channels. I love watching them and seeing your list. But every time you have a list, I'm like, okay, now I want to do one. I just never get to it.
I get too excited when I do these things. You know, I write things down and I make notes, and that all goes out the window because I want to get it down and I want to get it out. So I want to see what people think and you know, get that feedback.
Yeah.
So, but I need to just kind of.
Yep.
But yeah, it's getting there. But yeah, that's what I've got coming up.
Oh, that's cool.
What you got coming up, Eric?
Excuse me. Once this cough goes, I'm excited to get back into the podcast. I'm still releasing shows from other hosts, and there's a lot of good stuff coming up. But I'm gonna start doing something that I said I'd never do ever. But I'm gonna start doing some Patreon exclusive shows, and the only reason behind this, and I'm not trying to sell the Patreon, but I want to make the Patreon special, and I also want to hide some of the music that I'm playing on there because I'm starting a series where I'm doing the absolute deepest dive into my collection and playing the stuff that I've got as a promo or something that's sent to me by a composer that isn't commercially available. Like, I mean, they've sent it to me, they said, play it on your show. And I maybe played it once. It might have only aired on FM, but I want to make it special. And I kind of don't want to give it to everybody because some of this stuff is like really super rare, but I'm okay with giving it to the small amount of people that's behind the Patreon wall. So, I mean, in order to get access to this stuff, it's $1 a month. Literally. I mean, you can get on the other tiers and do more stuff. But I mean, if you want to hear it,
fake news. Because I tried and it said sold out.
Now, if you want to get onto those ones, if you want to get on the sold out ones, DM me. I'll open up a spot because there are some people who have actually they haven't paid, and I'm about to kick them out.
Nice.
So, but if you want to get involved, I'm going to tell you this right now. I think with this week, I think I might be able to produce this show without coughing my brains out. I'm going to give you a hint, but most of the time, the only hint that I'm going to give you on Twitter and Facebook are just the composers, but I'm not going to give you the titles. I know it's kind of cheeky, but here's what I'm playing on the first episode, and it's probably some stuff that you might not have heard before. You might have heard before. It depends on where you get the material. But I'm starting off with Michael Giacchino's Semper Fi, which has never been released. The show was never picked up. It was recorded for a pilot, and that was it.
Oh.
I'm also going to play the demo piece that he recorded at the Medal of Honor Underground sessions. That I was there. I heard it. At that point, I literally jumped into the mixing truck, and I told Michael Giacchino that he was a fucking genius when he recorded it. But it's vastly different than what was recorded for the pilot. I'm playing that. I'm going to play Lee Holdridge's Star Command, which was on volume 4 of his promo releases. I'm playing Don Davis's Antitrust. You're going to hear Christopher Young's Spider-Man 3, which I have as a 5-track promo that was legitimately given out by Christopher Young's PR people. I'm going to play William Ross's Tin Cup. You're going to get to hear all of the U.S. Masters music that he wrote for that, and it is awesome. And then I'm ending with John Debney's My Favorite Martian, which also has a melody of themes written by Danny Elfman. And again, that's available only on a promo. Right here. Never been released before. So Debney released a whole bunch of promos earlier on in the 90s. And so that went through his Kraft Benjamin agency. And does this have his old website on here? No. But yeah, Danny Elfman wrote the theme. At least I think he did. I could be wrong. Was that for no Inspector Gadget was different. Dennis Ands actually did the recording on it. It sounds amazing. So I'm doing a new series, where I'm doing absolute deep dives into some of the stuff that I got that nobody's ever heard before. And I think on the second show I'm going to do the Matrix video game music. Again, this guy should have scored the Matrix sequel. Erik Lungborn, I think, Swedish guy. He did some orchestrations for Don Davis. Anyway, it's a cool new series. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm really excited about that. Just to kind of give something to those people over there who really have my back. Like, they're really supportive. They keep me going. And it's not that the regular audience of the podcast isn't special and I'm still going to be doing shows for them. It's just, I've got to start being better to the people who are, the super fans. Anyway, so if you're interested, I'll post it. And then, like I said, it's $1 just to get access to that. It's pretty cheap. And, but if you want the higher tiers,
post the link in the chat for the people.
I can't do that, but I'll post it in the, I'll post it to you in the private, and then can you put it in the other chat? There you go. I'm not begging for money. I'm just saying there's a lot of cool stuff over there. Like, you can, there's the all request show that we do as well, which is a lot of fun. That is available publicly, the whole show, but only patrons are allowed to request tracks. So it's a real good community. There's a lot of really nice people out there. So that's what I'm doing. But I know Jason has a whole pile of shows coming up.
Jason Drury,
yeah. Like, Jason's got, oh God, what has he got going on with interviews? Greg Saffin, Logan Austin, Juliet Merchant. He's working with author Stephen Smith. He wrote that his most recent book was on Max Steiner. And if you don't have that, I highly recommend you get it. I can't believe the amount of information that he was able to pull from the Max Steiner estate to write that book. But he also wrote the be all and end all on Bernard Herrmann many years ago. He's also a documentarian. He did a lot of documentaries for like Annie biography and things of that sort. So the Bernard Herrmann book is great. So they're going to go back and review the Bernard Herrmann book, and they're going to do a 2-part interview and play a lot of Bernard Herrmann music. So those interviews are awesome. The Stephen Smith one was about Max Steiner. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you go and listen to it, because there's a whole wealth of information about Max Steiner that you probably don't even know. And you can hear that on the show. It's really neat.
Got the link posted below.
Yeah.
I hope I typed it correctly.
Yep. That's great. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this was fun again.
We've got Predator Wednesday night still.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. I'm gonna have to change something else, but yes.
Are you sure? I can put it off.
No, because I'm like, I know I have something on Wednesday. I just scheduled something with someone else, and I'm gonna cancel that. That's fine. It's easy. It's easy enough. Actually, no, I don't have to cancel it. No, I'm fine. I'm good. Yes.
Okay.
We're doing Predator on Wednesday. It's fine.
All right, Predator Wednesday.
Yep.
Haven't thought beyond that yet. So,
Showgirls.
If I could get it on streaming.
That might be what that could possibly be one of the most uncomfortable shows we ever do.
I'm going to
be also one of the funniest shows
like left to right on that. I'm like, Boomer, those are called breath.
And you haven't seen it, right?
I haven't. But
God. Okay, we have got to do this because it would be so much fun.
Do you know, if that happened, I would actually stay up to watch that.
I want to see his reaction to everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so bad.
I think Daniel's best videos are the ones where he gets quite flustered or angry.
Yeah. That'll be Showgirls. Yep. I mean, I think is I recently rewatched it just because I thought, oh, you know what, let's see if I'm gonna rewatch it because maybe we could rewatch it on the show. And I like within 5 minutes, you're just like, this is the worst acting I have ever seen. Like, I mean, the worst. And I forgot that it began so quickly, and it's so bad. It's so bad. It has everything to do with French fries. Anyway.
French fries.
Yeah, she gets extremely angry at French fries for some reason, and it's just so. But she's also angry about a whole bunch of stuff. But it's melodramatic times a billion. Like, I mean, it's terrible. You'll love it. It's freaking hilarious.
Paul
But yeah,
Verhoeven
some of it's
won
pretty
the
uncomfortable.
Golden Raspberry, didn't he?
What was that?
Paul Verhoeven won the Golden Raspberry as worst director, and he went and picked it up.
Yeah,
I thought was brilliant.
Yep. Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, you cannot believe that this was a Paul Verhoeven picture, especially for how I think mature Basic Instinct was. And then you're like, okay, you can go on to this, and this was after Starship Troopers, right?
Before, I think.
Was it before? So, but you're just like, and I understand that. Oh God. Anyway, we could talk about it in Verhoeven and his. I like Verhoeven a lot. This was a colossal misfire, and it basically comes down to casting. Yeah. Oh, he just watched Showgirls with. It's one of those ones you like. You might have to watch it with a group of people to truly appreciate it, because you got to comment on stuff. I mean, I was sitting there watching it again going, come on, let's talk about this. And then you have to see the cable version of it. They actually had a cable version, and they actually had to CGI black bras on the women. And it was funny because it was so bad. There's so much nudity in this movie that it's impossible to put it on cable without doing CGI bras or bikini tops or anything. It's so awful. It's as if like a 3-year-old went into Photoshop and covered them all up with a black marker. It's terrible. Anyway, we've got to do it.
Yeah, Showgirls coming soon, perhaps. We will see. We can get it on streaming. and talking about streaming, like we've been talking about Predator for like a couple months.
Yeah.
And it was on Google Play. And then we were talking about doing it again, and I went back to find it, and it's not available on Google Play anymore. And I was like, what the hell? It was here like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, but fortunately, I went ahead and I bought it when I.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, it's on Disney.
Good.
It's on Disney Stars.
When I did Gremlins at Christmas time, it's like you can get Gremlins, but you can't get Gremlins 2, but you can get the Gremlins 2-pack.
Gremlins 2, I think, was on Prime when I watched it, or maybe it was on Stars or something. Anyway, it was like one of those extra packs that you can buy through Prime, and you pay an extra $3. So
yeah,
I'll go for Showgirls. Yes, it's going to be a party. How many people you can get on this stream at once, Daniel? Just bring everybody on.
I'm going to have to pay for StreamYard here pretty quick because I'm capping out. They send me emails like, "You're a streaming machine. You've about used up all your free hours." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I missed one show. I won't have to pay you this month." So, once I do that, I think I can have 12.
Oh, let's do it. All of us.
I mean, I'll be like,
at once. Let's go. Right. Yep. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Before my phone dies, thank you for tuning in. Adopt, don't shop. Check out Erik. Check out Ian. Come back Wednesday for Showgirls. Predator. Not Showgirl. Predator.
False advertising.
And we will see you next week. All right, we'll be back next week with episode 6. Bye.